It's been a big year for sports in Canada. The Women's World Cup has come and gone. The Pan American Games are in full swing in Toronto. And 50 miles to the east, North America's premier endurance sports car series, the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship, is visiting Canada's most historic racetrack. Great cars and a great circuit. Let's start with the cars.
The prototype category is comprised of sleek, powerful, and ultra-high-speed machines driven by drivers who have won at the highest level of motorsports all around the globe. But with high cornering loads and triple-digit cornering speeds here, these drivers have an extreme test today.
Well, in GT Le Mans, it is the most competitive sports car racing anywhere in the world. These are factory entries with factory drivers from Porsche, BMW, Ferrari, and Corvette. In fact, in qualifying, it was so tight from first to last, the gap was only 0.7 of a second.
Making its CTMP TUDOR Series debut this weekend is the Prototype Challenge class, a one-make series where everything is identical except team and driver. Sandwiched in between the prototypes and the GTLM cars on the grid, these drivers will be in the thick of the battles all day long.
The second largest country on Earth by area, Canada is a distant 38th in population. Yet the land of the maple leaf has produced more than its share of racing heroes, from past world champions and winners of the sport's greatest events to the stars of today. Canada is also home to one of the sport's legendary circuits, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Formerly known as Mosport, this rolling track in the Ontario countryside has hosted every premier form of motorsport, from stock cars to Formula One. Today, Canada's own Michael Valiente and his championship-leading team headline Round 7 of the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship. Welcome to the Mobil 1 SportsCar Grand Prix from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park on Fox Sports 1. Live from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park in Ontario, this is Round 7 of the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship, the Mobil 1 SportsCar Grand Prix. Hi everybody, I'm Bob Barsha with Calvin Fish and Justin Bell. Calvin, to paraphrase Hall of Fame football coach John Madden, when it comes to racetracks, CTMP is an all-day sucker.
Bob, this racetrack is simply awesome, a ribbon of road that will take your breath away. Now, to be quicker, you have to be on maximum attack with total commitment. But at these speeds, there is no margin for error today. A small mistake could be catastrophic, not only for your race today, but also for the season as the Prototype Championship reaches a very critical point. When the checkered flag flies today, there will only be 3 rounds remaining, and the pressure is starting to build in a very tight battle at the top of the standings. Justin?
Well, Richard Westbrook and Michael Valiente lead Prototype after their win at the Glen. And you know, they're the only repeat winners this year, but right behind them are the reigning series champs João Barbosa and Christian Fittipaldi. Now, Dane Cameron and Eric Curran in the number 31 and Joey Hand and Scott Pruitt in the 01, they continue to have strong seasons running 3rd and 4th. But the number 10 of Ricky and Jordan Taylor, oh, look at that! They had bad fortune bite them again, crashing from the lead at Watkins Glen.
In GTLM, it's a tie at the top between Corvette and BMW. Jan Magnussen and Antonio Garcia in the number 3 vet will look for a repeat win at CTMP to give them the edge over the number 25 BMW Z4 of Bill Oberlin and Dirk Werner. Number 17 Falcon Tire Team will look for back-to-back victories after a brilliant win at the Glen.
In Prototype Challenge, John Bennett and Colin Brown had 4 victories at this point last year on their way to a title. This year they have none, but still lead the points by just 1 over Mike Gouache and Tom Kimber-Smith. There you have some of our storylines coming into a great race here in Ontario, Canada. Stand by. We'll be back to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park with more of the Mobil 1 SportsCar Grand Prix.
Another fast, daunting, old school, fun racetrack.
Fast. Fast, really, really fast and right on the edge.
Very, very special.
I love that racetrack.
It's my favorite.
Very challenging, very old school.
Really fast.
Every driver's first thought when you talk about Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, fast. Tell us about it, Justin.
Yeah, fast, dangerous, demanding, and it's almost 4 Canadian kilometers, 2.5 American miles. And turn 1 and 2, well, that's where you have to get it all together. Very fast, very dangerous. And then as you go through turn 5, it's all about corner exit, because that long Andretti straight You need to position for overtaking into turn 8, and then, of course, through 10 to the finish line. You know, Bob, it has the fastest average speed of nearly all the tracks they visit in North America and Canada. What a track.
I absolutely believe it. This place is simply fearsome. Our Continental Tire starting grid is across the top of your screen. There you see our onboard cameras, 6 of the 10 that we will have today, including one on the Chevy Camaro pace car. And here are the 4 remaining onboards, all in the GT Le Mans category. It's a very tight field in terms of lap times. Fairly short lap at these speeds, barely over 1 minute 10 seconds for the quickest prototypes. But now all the preliminaries are done. It's time for the Chevy Camaro pace car to pull off, and across the front row, Ricky Taylor and Christian Fittipaldi in a pair of Corvette Daytona prototypes will lead them to the green flag.
Start is going to be so critical here. You can go side by side, and Ricky Taylor gets an early jump.
Yeah, he did what he had to do, and that is get it into single file for him, turning into turn 1 there. Look how fast it is already. The tires aren't hot, Calvin, and look at the speed through there.
Pruitt looked to the inside of Fittipaldi. He got the door closed, and Valiente jumps around the outside.
Now here comes the GT portion of the field. BMW's up front. Excuse me, a Porsche and a BMW.
And I think the word in the drivers' meeting last night was you can go for it right from the apex of the last corner. Certainly Nick Tandy did that, as did Ricky Taylor in the prototypes.
You have to assume that the reason for that was because they wanted guys to be able to space themselves at these speeds, especially with that wicked turn 2, downhill left-hander, lots of G-force.
Clean on these starts, but we did have a problem on the formation lap for the number 11 PC car, which is in the thick of this championship battle. Chris Cumming had qualified that car in second. We see it on pit lane.
Chris Cumming 4th in the championship. You talked about it, Calvin. They're in the thick of the championship hunt. They've got a win so far this season, but significant damage to the left front. It looks like the suspension may be okay. I can't get a good look at it just yet. Certainly the under tray needs to be replaced, and the nose will have to be replaced.
Let's take another look at what happened on the warm-up lap. Watch the left side of your screen, I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah, he just lights him up there, coming out of 2. Just tried to probably do a quick burnout, try and generate some tire temperature, and lost control there. So you don't see Chris make many mistakes. That was a critical one right there.
That's right. He raced at Le Mans this year, sharing with Bruno Junqueira, the former IndyCar star.
Yeah, Ricky Taylor does have the hammer down. These are the best of the best in the best. This is fantastic to watch. But of course, Christian Fittipaldi in second place, he doesn't want to let him get too far. He doesn't want to let him to get nicely into a rhythm. This track is one very hard track to overtake on. So you want to stay close proximity to the guy in front. It's pace, it's smooth, it's momentum, difficult.
And it's going to be tough because, Bob, you talked about it, the field is really spread by only 6 seconds across all 3 classes, so there's going to be no easy pickings here in getting through the traffic here today. But Ricky Taylor, what a way to rebound from the crash at the Glen to grab the pole and leading these early laps.
Well, Justin, you mentioned how difficult it is to pass here. I actually talked to Christian about that right on the grid before he got in the car, and he compared it to a street track. He said there are a couple more passing zones here than we see when we're surrounded by concrete walls, but it takes the same level of commitment.
Well, it's certainly been a weekend of redemption for Ricky Taylor. Let's take you back 2 weeks ago to that rain-splashed event, the Salem 6 Hours at legendary Watkins Glen. Leading late in the race when the rain began to fall in buckets, just overstepped the bound of traction, and it cost him everything.
He said he was just looking too far ahead. He essentially thought he completed the cornering load through that corner. He just stepped on that white line there. You see Joey Yan go for a quick spin. He thought the door was going to be closed there. There's Jordan Taylor, Ricky's brother, just pats him on the back. We'll come back, we'll bounce back, and that's exactly what they're doing right now.
I'll tell you, as a driver, like Calvin and I have been in those situations, when you see your teammate come in after doing that, there's not a lot you can say, especially if you're brothers, because I tell you what, any one of us can do that at any moment. The rain is treacherous, especially in a DP car, but
Ricky handled it with class. He stood up, put his hand up, said, driver error. On board, the Porsche 911 in the hands of Le Mans 24 Hours overall co-winner Nick Tandy.
And the first repeat pole sitter in GTLM since the start of the TUDOR Championship at the beginning of 2014. That's how competitive this class is. And Nick Tandy, what a talent he is. He can wring the neck of one of these Porsches better than anyone else.
There's Dirk Werner in the first of the Team RLL BMW Z4s. Last lap, just a thousandth of a second or so off of Tandy's class-leading pace.
But still good news for Dirk Werner and Bill Auberlen. They're tied for the lead in this championship. The guys they're tied with, Magnussen and Garcia, they're down in 6th spot right now. The Corvettes have not shown the sort of speed that some of these other GT-LM cars have here this weekend.
I know you at home are watching this in sort of avid attention, but these cars look so quick, don't they, guys? You just got to love watching them. This turn 1, we're watching them right now. Look at them move. Look at the Corvette there. It's bouncing around at the back there. Oliver Gavin behind the wheel. You know, it's interesting. We've been walking up and down the paddock all weekend. Everybody in this class is optimistic about this race, even if you qualified in 8th place. And I think that's something about this. They know strategy will take a place. Overtaking on the track is not going to be as easy as it is in the pits.
No, it's such close competition. Jamie talked about it at the top of the show. The whole field in GT-LM was separated by just 0.7 of a second, and you see it on the track right now. They're all in one big cluster. That's going to put the emphasis on the pit stops today.
There's your leader in the Prototype Challenge category, James French, number 38 for Performance Tech Motorsports. As Brian mentioned at the top of the show, Prototype Challenge is a spec class. The chassis are all the same, open cockpit prototype cars built by Orica in France, all powered by Chevrolet V8 engines. The difference is made by the nut behind the wheel, as they say.
Yeah, and I tell you what, James French had never seen this racetrack before this weekend, so a tremendous job by him, kind of tutored by Connor Daly, who's going to be co-driving again with that team this weekend. And they've had 3 podium runs here this season. They haven't climbed to the top step, but today could be their day. Connor Daly's been extremely quick here this weekend.
There's a battle to watch. The 54 John Bennett, followed closely by Mike Gouache in the number 52. Those are the top 2 cars in Prototype Challenge at this point of the season, with just 4 rounds remaining, 3 for the prototypes after this race.
You see that number 8 from Star Wars Motorsports in the PC category as well. Mirko Schultz is behind the wheel right now, but we're not sure for how long. He is terribly, terribly sick today with a stomach bug. Team owner Peter Barron actually sent a tweet out earlier asking if there were any silver-rated drivers on the CTMP premises, hoping that they could get a different driver behind the wheel of that car. It's not a possibility with the way the IMSA rules are this season. So Mirko does have to start that car. The rule states that he needs to do 60 minutes. They're not sure that that's a possibility. So his co-driver Renga van de Zande is on the pit cart ready to go as soon as Mirko says he needs to come in.
Silver-rated driver, just to clarify that, this is the only Pro-Am category we have here this weekend. GTD is obviously not running, and that means that this silver-rated driver is essentially a Pro-Am guy, a guy who does not earn his living from driving race cars, and they have to do that minimum drive time to really make it equal for the whole field. You can't stack the deck, so to speak. So that 60 minutes is critical. Otherwise, not only will Mirko not get points today, but also Renga van de Zande, who's in the thick of this championship battle as well.
And I think that's why Brian Till, our co-host, was walking down with his helmet earlier. He does have a suit on.
He's grey-rated.
Yeah, he's grey-rated.
I'm rust, guys.
But look at this
rust.
back at the front. I'd actually say that it's bunching up a little bit there. I think Scott Pruitt has just eased up a little bit towards the back of Michael Valiante's car there. Right now, when you're about 6-7 laps in, Calvin, you're going to see the first stage in the deterioration, the balancing, if you like, of the tires. You go through that first, the tires are great on new tires off the start, and then they settle down around now. This average speed is so high that the tires are under a lot of pressure the whole time. There really is no respite.
Do not attempt to adjust your screen. That was the view from the onboard camera in the Mazda Skyactiv Diesel, one of the team's normal 2 cars running this weekend. You had to look at Bobby Rahal. There is Bruno Junqueira. We'll be back.
Well, this is Mosport, and I'm Bruce McLaren.
The late, great Bruce McLaren knew a thing or two about getting a good race car around what is now Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Several Formula One victories for McLaren chassis. Peter Revson, Emerson Fittipaldi, James Hunt. And in the Can-Am days of the late 60s and early 70s, McLaren chassis simply ruled around this Canadian circuit.
This race is about to have a totally different complexion, Justin, because Ricky Taylor is now coming up on the tail end of that GT-LM battle. And this is where it's going to get really hairy around this racetrack, trying to pick your way through that.
It's the first time we've seen any variables, and we're going to have to see how that plays out, sure.
If you like what you're watching, keep watching, but crack the computer and go to foxsports.com/Tudor for live onboard video streams of this TUDOR United SportsCar Championship race. foxsports.com/Tudor, the Tudor onboard pass. Bit overcast today. The weather has been absolutely beautiful here, just about 20 miles north of Lake Ontario. Here's our weathertech.com weather report. 85 degrees, nice 53% humidity. This place would be heaven on earth if they could figure out a way to deal with the mosquitoes after the sun goes down.
Well, heaven just changed a little bit for Ricky Taylor right now. He's had a great drive here at the beginning, but now is when the pressure mounts. I mean, Christian Fittipaldi is not that far behind right now, about a second and a half, so he can't afford to lose any time, otherwise that 5 car is going to be all over him.
Balance between, you've got to be aggressive and you've also got to be patient, but as you say, with Christian right behind, but just to pick up on how you positioned it, yes, this is the only possible variation that you can have in the pace of this race as the front-running car is either the pit stop or coming up on traffic, because you simply go too fast to get these overtaking spots. Overtaking really only happens when you have a tight corner, either before it or after it, and we only have one of those here. So that's what we're really seeing is Ricky's going to have to be very aggressive through the traffic, as you see him carve down the inside there of Jan Magnussen. Of course, remember, these are all pro drivers at the top of their game in the best cars driving past each other. So in some ways, it's going to be more interesting when they reach the back of the PC class.
And Bill Barfield, the race director, was very specific in the drivers' meeting here last night to the prototype guys. He said, guys, you cannot lean on these GT cars through the critical parts of the racetrack. He named turn 1, turn 2, turn 4 right here, turn 8. They're on the limit. You touch them, they're going for a big ride. I'm not going to stand for it. There'll be big penalties if you do it.
Well, if you think about the risk versus reward for right now for Ricky Taylor out in front, there is no risk, so to speak, because they've dropped so far back in the championship because of the problems that they have. Look for them to attack. For Christian Fittipaldi, he's got to be a little bit more careful. They sit up there towards the front of the championship. They cannot risk being brought into the pit lane for a penalty. That's
a great point, Brian, because they're so far back. I spoke to the team this weekend, Travis Hogue and Brian Pilla, the engineer at the Konica Minolta team, and he said, listen, I like it. He said, the pressure's off. We can't focus on just one competitor. There's too many ahead of us. We can just go out and execute for race wins, and that's what they're trying to do here today. Conversely, as you mentioned, Brian, for Christian Fittipaldi, he has to think about the big picture. The 90 cars had a great start. They've struggled for pace here this weekend, but Valiente had a great start at the drop of the green. He's up to 3rd spot.
Sun starting to burn through the overcast. You see the shadows forming around the race cars as Ricky Taylor continues on his way.
Yeah, he just overtook Lucas Luhr there, I believe. BMW's looking mighty strong round here. We're caught up at the top of the field in GTM. Nick Tandy has held a pretty good, consistent pace, pulling away from Dirk Werner there. I mean, we're talking a lot about Nick right now, I think for good reason. These are all great guys, and everyone has in their career a moment where the sun shines a little brighter on you. When he went and got into that prototype at Le Mans, and by no means a prototype as we understand them here in the States, those things are literally spaceships. And he adapted and he got up to pace, and he won the race, and he was one of the fastest drivers. So outstanding, and great. American fans love him. So if you like, we made him here first. So it's great to see him going on to this huge Porsche success.
I spoke to Pat Long last year as part of the Porsche factory squad, of course, for so many years here in the States. He said Nick Tandy is just unbelievable. We all look at the lap time that he's able to generate out of one of these cars, and all of those guys are super quick, but Nick just able to get that little bit more, and that's what we saw in qualifying here yesterday. And he's also super committed. We talk about this racetrack, you've got to attack the course. He does it. He does it week in, week out.
That was a great Le Mans race and a great victory for Tandy, his Porsche factory teammate Earl Bamber, and Force India Formula One driver Nico Hülkenberg.
Look at that, Eric Cohen gets the acceleration run on the Z4 and is able to make that move into turn 4, but it's just a rhythm, it's just the timing. Sometimes you're in the right spot, sometimes you're just absolutely in the wrong spot and you can't clear the car and you're going to lose a chunk of lap time. This is a good battle here.
Yeah, look at that. It's a nice train led by the Ferrari. The Ferrari's been very impressive. Pierre Caffa, he just looked magnificent yesterday in qualifying, and the car looks good round here. And in some ways, I regard Ferrari as, you know, David versus Goliath. I mean, that's a one-car entry out there up against, rather like, again, with the Falcon car. But, you know, these are single entries, and it's tough, and they run so fast despite that.
On board the number 17 Falcon Tire Porsche in the hands of Brian Sellers. Jan Magnussen there in the number 3 Corvette. Jörg Bergmeister in the 2nd factory Porsche. Oliver Gavin, you're on board with Ollie now. Remember, this is the chassis that won the GTE Pro class at Le Mans barely a month ago. Ollie Gavin was on that driver strength.
And that just shows how competitive the class is. Right now he's running very strongly, but he's in 8th in the last spot in class. So 3 of these cars, in fact, Brian Sellers' car, Jörg Bergmeister and Ollie Gavin, switch tyres out after qualifying. The rule is you have to start the race on at least 3 of the 4 tyres that you used in qualifying session. They had poor qualifying slots, so they said it's really a no-brainer. We're not going to move back much further. So fresher tyres. So these guys have a big advantage over guys like Magnussen and Kaffer, who put probably about 9-10 laps on those tyres in a very fierce qualifying session here late yesterday.
Yeah, that advantage isn't playing out as big as they'd thought.
Yeah, well, it's tough to pass. I mean,
it's so hard to pass. But you know what they're doing right now, isn't it? The strategists in the pits, guys who have minds like you do, are looking at this thinking, where are we? And they're talking, I bet they're talking to their mechanics and crew saying, how are we going to get out of the pits in front? How are you going to move Gavin ahead of Bergmeister? How's that going to play out?
Also, the way that tyre strategy will play out, it should come into its own a little bit later in this stint.
Yeah.
Guys, Nick Tandy in the 911, you talked about the sun shining on him, Justin, and maybe the sunshine is something that they don't really want to see today. I can just barely see my shadow down here on pit lane. There's a kind of a high overcast. That's going to be good for the Porsches in general, because this racetrack with the high cornering loads very hard on tires. He said, we've got to work hard to make sure we keep our tire temperatures where they need to be. Otherwise, we'll lose those rear tires. Jamie?
And with the BMW, specifically on that number 24, Brian, going off of what you just said, there's a lot of energy going through those tires. There are 4 corners here that are in 5th gear. At the Glen, for example, there was only 1, so there's a lot more pressure being put on those, so they have to work harder to save the tires. But I was just listening in on the team radio, and Jay O'Connell, technical director for BMW, was telling Lucas, I need you to step it up about 2 more tenths of a second if you're able to do so.
That's a big ask around a place like Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Coming up on 20 minutes into this 2-hour, 40-minute event, live here on Fox Sports 1. Stand by. We'll be back to Ontario. Welcome back live to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park in round 7 of the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship for 2015 here on Fox Sports. We are now coming up on 23 minutes into the race. The leader is Ricky Taylor, and he is pressed hard by the Mustang sampling Corvette Daytona prototype of Christian Fittipaldi.
Yeah, I think that was traffic, Bob, but Christian took 7/10 out of that lead on Ricky Taylor, and suddenly we see a car spun there at the apex of Moss Corner as the leaders come through.
Notice that dark patch of asphalt that just went out the left side of your screen. On Friday, the teams ran, and they found that the apex section of that racetrack, well, just off to the outer side of the curb there, as the 16 comes around, the pavement was coming up. So overnight, they added that big patch of black asphalt.
Well, this is kind of what Ricky didn't want and Christian did want. I mean, it's too early in the race for any shockingly dramatic overtaking maneuvers, but Christian also knows that Ricky is very good when he settles into a pace in the lead. He's very good at leading, and he wants to upset that. So I think you're going to find that Fittipaldi is going to keep as close as he can to the back of Ricky's car. And as we see in prototypes, sometimes the only way past is to force the guy in front into some form of error. Otherwise, they're going to sit like this until the pit stop. So Christian's going to push very hard.
He is, and both these teams are operating at such a high level. The Konica Minolta team has certainly been, I'd say, most consistently fast team this year. They haven't had the results, a couple of problems, obviously. But the Mustang sampling car, I mean, what can you say about those guys? They're defending champions. Fittipaldi and Barbosa have such great chemistry, and the team's firing on all cylinders right now.
God, he was hard under brakes there. Christian came in so deep into turn 5 there. But of course, that compromised him a little on the exit as he went down Andretti straight.
There's a look at the Delta Wing DWC-13, as it's now known, in the hands of Catherine Legg, the only woman driver in today's race. Brian?
Catherine's birthday today, but she's not being treated very well. Just reports a little while ago of her getting hit from behind entering one of the corners, and the reports on the radio, the communication back and forth between Timmy Keene and Catherine Legg in the car right now. She's saying it feels like something is bent, something is vibrating in the back, whether that's a bent wheel or perhaps the alignment is not correct anymore. The car is not doing what it's supposed to do. Interesting around this racetrack anyway, with the long high-speed duration corners, that car does not have an anti-roll bar in the back, and they said it's a bit of a handful to drive anyway. And now that things are amiss in the back end of that car, it's not going to be pleasant at all.
Well, she celebrates her 35th birthday today, but you could see there as she tried to dive down the inside into turn 3. Really wasn't the Porsche's fault. He didn't close the door. She just washed up a little bit into him, and there's probably a little bit of damage on that left rear corner.
Yeah, she was just trying to make sure she carried as much speed and executed the pass as quickly as she could. That happens out there. One thing we always talk about is the effects that a slight incident might have on the Delta Wing as opposed to a more traditional car, but it certainly looked strong enough there. Brian?
Well, they were struggling with the handling a little bit earlier. I said it wasn't pleasant to drive. They finally got the rear end of the car settled down, but it was settled down too much. So when you watch the car wash up and out and into the other car, that may be what it was. They actually had her turn the traction control off a little bit earlier to try to burn down the rear tires a little bit to make the rear end a little bit loose and not push quite so much.
I think you bring up a very important point about that car, Brian. They're kind of scratching their heads a bit as to why they don't have the pace at some of the tracks that they had last year. We've talked a lot about them switching to a new gearbox setup, and with that they changed the rear suspension setup at the same time, and it's just working a little bit differently. They're trying to get their arms around it.
Eric Curran brings the number 31 Action Express Whelen Team Fox car to the pits. Jamie's there.
And this will be for full service, Bob. Dane Cameron is going to get behind the wheel of the car. I was talking to Dane before the start of this race, and he said they could have gone a little better in qualifying, maybe moved him up a 2/10, a tenth or so. Might have gotten it a little bit wrong on the setup, but he said we have a good, solid race car. We're just going to have to be there when other teams make a mistake, and we'll just see what happens. Quick pit stop, and he's out.
I think this is a great strategy call. I mean, Eric did a great job kind of hanging towards the front of the pack, and they'll be able to get Dane out here and stay on the lead lap for the prototypes. The real key is how he mixes with the other traffic, because as we've seen, it's tough to pass here. As he now comes up to speed, here comes those GTLM cars. He's got to do his best here to try and get in front of them, get the tire temperature into those Continental tires.
He's going to have to be a little rude to stay in front, but he got the pace there. It was a very good pit exit, and of course you do have the advantage of a progressive but very fast left-hander. So obviously you see the Mazda coming up behind, but that was a good strategy call.
And a great drive out of the pits by Eric Curran. When you see cars exiting the pits, keep an eye on that yellow line that extends beyond the end of the pit wall. Drivers have been instructed to stay off it, no matter whether you're on the racing side of the track or the pit exit side.
The key now for Dane Cameron, Bob, is he's got fresh tires on. He's got to get the hammer down. So as the other cars stay out there, maybe he can run slightly faster lap times, and then they'll kind of gain a little bit. If it stays green here today, these prototypes are going to need to do 3 stops. You can't get by on just 2. So I think that's what the 31 squad are really banking on, staying green flag running. We anticipated if we did see caution today, it was probably going to be at the start of the race, not later on.
To Brian Till.
Connor Daly back behind the wheel of the 38 prototype challenge car this weekend. And Connor, this racetrack's pretty special to you. You wrapped up a Star Mazda championship here, and I know you're doing some coaching this weekend. How much of that information can you pass along to James French and help out this effort overall looking for a win?
Well, I mean, it is his first time here, and he's doing a great job so far. So, this has been the plan, is just to try and get out front and take advantage of the pole position, and he's done it so far, and he's just making his way through the GTLM traffic, which is tough here. It's passing is a challenge around this high-speed circuit. So he's done great so far and done everything we need him to do. So hopefully he just keeps pulling a lead.
Trying to make up for those few hiccups that they had at Watkins Glen, Jamie.
It's a great strategy call for the number 31 Whelen team. Eric Curran, what condition is the track in today compared to what we've seen the rest of the weekend?
Well, it feels a lot like qualifying yesterday afternoon. I mean, it's pretty slick out there, but I think we're just a little bit off on what we did for a race setup here and fell back a little bit. And, that wasn't the plan to do a driver change so early, but, it's make a few changes to the car quick and might as well put Dane in if we're going to make that change. So, anyway, I think the 31 car has been quick all weekend, so we're just trying to make changes and keep making it quicker. And sometimes it doesn't go the right way. But hopefully the last change there will put Dane in a good position, and he's faster on here, so we'll see where it goes.
What was it you were missing in the car?
What's that?
What was it you were missing?
I mean, just overall grip, but struggled a lot with front grip in the beginning, just trying to get the tire pressures up, just fought it a lot in the start. But then ended up, later in the run, ended up kind of matching the lap times of the guys up front, but lost a bunch of ground. So changed up our strategy pretty quick. We'll see where it goes.
Thank you.
Spoke to the guys after the morning warm-up, and they was kind of confused. They'd had a good car all weekend. Didn't feel quite right this morning, but the ambient temperature is so much lower. You really don't want to make a big change. If you felt the car's good all weekend, suddenly you go out at 8 a.m. We're now in the heat of the day. It's going to be a different racetrack, a different animal anyway. So BMW, in fact, didn't even send their cars out this morning. Spoke to Lucas Lurie, said the track's so different, we're just going to confuse ourselves. We're better to leave them tucked inside the transporter and go race.
And that may go back to the overcast we talked about earlier in the race. You don't have that radiant sun beating down on the track that we've had the previous 2 days.
Starting to get really sporty here. Christian Fittipaldi, I have to say, is keeping the pressure. But look, all 4 of them are now bunched up. A little bit of traffic helped that. But also, I do think we're in that tire deterioration mode. They're starting to really settle in. And I tell you what, I think Ricky's had to push very hard to stay at the front and gap it like that. And now we're seeing the benefit.
Great start for the 90 car, Michael Valiante. They have struggled. They even tested here on Tuesday, but all week they've struggled. They've obviously got a good race set up. Michael's right in the thick of the battle.
With traffic approaching, we'll keep an eye on it. You won't miss a thing. We'll be back live to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park with more of the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship. There are your 3 class leaders. On Tuesday, baseball's best players gather in Cincinnati for the Midsummer Classic with home field advantage for the World Series on the line. Our coverage of the 2015 MLB All-Star Game presented by T-Mobile begins Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern on your local Fox station and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Don't miss it. Plenty of action while we were away, including a lead change. There's Christian Fittipaldi on the track where Uncle Emerson won in a Formula One McLaren back in 1974. He got by Ricky Taylor a lap ago.
Let's take a look at how that pass happened. It was down into Moss Corner. They'd been encountering a lot of traffic on that previous lap, so Christian was all over the back end of Ricky Taylor, and here you see it.
Yeah, he actually was blocked way earlier up the straight by that PC car. That is a beautiful move. He had to do it. You had to force it. That is just racing. There will be no penalty for that. Was a smart move. Unsettled Ricky on that disruptive asphalt there as he went through. I mean, that's it. Little hip check there, but that is the only way you're going to go by. Use traffic, go deep, full commitment. That was a move that he was setting up for, as you said, Cal.
Strategy call here for the 60 car. Brian is there.
John Pugh climbing out, Oz Negre climbing in. They had just been on the radio with John Pugh saying you're doing some great laps, you're catching the car in front. And I think kind of the same strategy that you were talking about. Make that improvement, catch the car in front of you, and once you get a little bit closer and you got a gap behind, duck into the pits. That's exactly what they've done. 4 new Continental tires, Oz Negre away, and he has been magic in this car all weekend long.
Oh, he has been blisteringly quick, and the real state, the qualifying driver has to start the race, and you always want someone like Oz Negre to be finishing the game off. So he's got speed, but he's still got some work to do.
Yeah, and of course, we've still got to see some pretty critical pit stops occur and unfold. But right now, Christian, by having done that at the front, by having got in the lead, has just changed a little bit the strategy going back from there. So, we have a spinner.
Oh, the 85 has gone around.
Nice place to try and have to find reverse that, too.
Third place car in Prototype Challenge.
Final corner here, isn't it? Between 9 and 10, he probably lost it. Now we're looking at the final corner, I believe, onto the front straightaway.
Gil Goldberg, former champion in the Cooper Tires Prototype Lights class.
Yeah, that's fine.
See if we can figure out what happened to him.
Oh, there's contact there between he and the 54 car, I believe, of John Bennett. Kind of side by side through the apex area of turn 9. You're just so loaded there, Justin, you get a little bump.
And that's all it takes. No harm, no foul. He continues, and I'm sure he will remember that next lap.
Up ahead there, we're on board here with the 912 of Jörg Bergmeister.
Where do you go in a situation like that?
Just not in the wall, Bob. Not in the wall.
Preferably.
Yeah.
Up, another Prototype Challenge car with an issue. Is that James French? Is that the class leader?
Oh, here we go. And this is going to be pit lane closed. So this is what's great for the 60 team and the 31 team. They can stay out or they can come in. They need a short fill. They're going to still go to the front.
A year ago, this race went clean and green from start to finish. That won't happen this year. We're under our first full course caution as the Michael Shank Racing guys congratulate one another. Back at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, check out IMSA's all-new app featuring TUDOR Championship and Continental Tire Challenge, as well as coverage of the other IMSA series for live streaming of races, onboard cameras, live IMSA radio, full timing and scoring. You can customize your experience to follow your favorite manufacturer, the latest news and videos, detail on teams, drivers, and a whole lot more. Check it out. Still under our first full course caution of the day as James French in the class-leading Prototype Challenge Orica Chevrolet stopped on the Andretti straightaway has now been collected.
Right as we went to caution, the 01 ducked into pit lane. It looked like the perfect strategy call, but we're hearing that the pit lane was already closed. If that is the case, we need confirmation that they will then have to serve a stop and go plus hold for 60 seconds, which is really a lap around this racetrack. So almost a brilliant move, but it looks like could have come back to bite them.
Here are news and notes brought to you by Porsche. This week, IMSA, the ACO, who organized the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and the international governing body, the FIA, announced the selection of the 4 constructors for the next generation of prototype chassis we'll see beginning in 2017. You saw the 4 manufacturers there. More on that later on. Pit stop action coming up now. Brian Till.
Konica Minolta Corvette is in. It will be a driver change. Jordan Taylor taking over for Ricky. 4 new Continental tires, and fuel should be routine. Not a mark on this car. It has been so quick. They did test a little bit earlier in the week here, and that may have helped them out a little bit because they have certainly had the pace all weekend. Jamie?
Well, on the 5 machine, it's also full service. João Barbosa now behind the wheel, and there is the tiniest of scuffs on the side of this number 5 machine. Very clean pit stop, and he is out.
That was an awesome stop here by the 5 squad. I mean, they came in close, and look at the gap, and the 90 cars leapfrogged around the 10 as well.
Gee whiz.
It's probably Colin Braun. No, actually, John Bennett will be staying in. They haven't done 60 minutes yet, so there won't be any driver changes yet in PC. It's just tight quarters there. 2 classes, the PC and the prototypes, pitting together. Next time by, it'll be GTLM.
Good awareness, though, by both guys there, really, once they got into the peak.
Watch See, this. The 90 clears the way. Then John Bennett in that white open-top car is trying to get around one of the 90 crewmen moving tires, and here comes the Konica Minolta Corvette Daytona prototype.
Jordan did have the option to go to what we call the fast lane. There's essentially 3 lanes: the service lane, the transition lane, as we call it in the middle, and the fast lane. Jordan, really, you want to get in that fast lane because something like that can happen, and if you're kind of still tightening up your belts or whatever, it can be a big problem.
And as always happens, it's not the driver's fault. He is sent. He's watching somebody who's going to tell him when it's clear to go, so you can't really put that one on John Bennett.
So many times when you're cruising down pit lane, you're resetting fuel, you're doing things inside the cockpit, you're not paying 100% attention. It's like, how did he run into him? Well, you're busy in there. You're still finishing things off from the pit stop.
It feels like you're doing 6 miles an hour as well. So, you know, after the pace of a track like this, especially, you're going down pit lane, you're just you know, you're even cinching back up your belts, and he's doing it right now. But, you know, Jordan's got you know, the car Ricky was running so fast out there. Jordan's got to get up to speed. He's also got a different running order now.
Lots of strategies going on here. We saw the driver change with the 10, but look at this. Valiente has stayed in the 90. And this racetrack is physical, Justin. I mean, there's heavy cornering load. So what the 90 squad are doing, let's have a real fresh Richard Westbrook at the end of this. Let's have Michael do a double stint. His pace has been awesome today. Let's split the duty.
Now it's time for the GT cars. Here's Brian.
Patrick Pilet will be taking over for Nick Tandy in the 911. It is getting busy down here on pit lane. Team Falcon Tire Porsche just came in, and it looks like there'll be a driver change down there as well. This race could easily be won or lost on pit lane. Pit stops have to be perfect. Driver changes timely. The crew going to work down here. It'll be 4 Michelin tires and fuel. And Patrick Pilet will take the 911 back on track.
And for BMW, both the 25 and 24 and 25, though, did not do a driver change. They had a but they still had to be held because there was GTLM traffic leaving pit lane. The 24, however, did do a driver change.
And you did hear Brian Till correctly. Michelin tires going on every car in the GT Le Mans class except the 17 Falcon Tire Porsche. We'll take a break and return to Bowmanville, Ontario. Back live at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. This is the Mobil 1 SportsCar Grand Prix, round 7 of the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship. I'm Bob Varsha with Calvin Fish and Justin Bell. Jamie Howe and Brian Tiller in the pit lane. On board with Wolf Hensler, settling into the Falcon Tire Porsche 911 RSR.
Brian Sellers had actually got around the Ferrari of Catherine, was up to the 4th spot. So obviously these conditions are different. I mean, the ambience up there, but there's a little bit more cloud cover today, and that suddenly you can find your tire window where the compound's working a little bit better. Certainly the 17 car looks strong once again.
Now we expect a green flag this time around to get you up to speed. The 01 from Ganassi Racing, the Ford EcoBoost car with Scott Pruitt, has been penalized. He has to take the penalty under green flag conditions. A full stop for 60 seconds.
Talk about the strategy of the 31. Dane Cameron has the lead of this motor race, but Osnegri is going to be really quick in that number 60 as he tries to clear some of this traffic.
Yeah, that was a pretty aggressive move there to go down the inside for Pruitt, but he needed, you know, he's got nothing. He's
got to get around.
He's not going to gain 60 seconds back right now, so he's just got to, I think he's probably pretty aggravated in the car. So stop past 60 is the penalty that has been announced as we join the GTLM cars winding their way up to turn 3. Oh!
That's the 8 car.
Yeah, the 8 car.
Schulteis. Talked about him not feeling so well here today. They decided to start him. He got a little bump or went a little bit wide there in turn 3.
They won the last 2 races in class in Detroit and Watkins Glen, going for their 3rd straight this weekend. But as Calvin has mentioned, Mirko Schulteis has been having a difficult time, gastrointestinally speaking.
Number 16 car, John Falber's leading. Going to be sharing that car with young Sean Rahal. So he's going to be certainly really quick when he finishes off this race. So a great performance by that team. BAR1 as Pruitt now serves his penalty, and they were so close to actually getting that car across the commitment line.
Oh boy.
Oh, the Delta wing just cut off the Mazda there, but
let's take a quick look at what Pruitt and the Ganassi team were looking for. He calls it my fault.
Really damn close.
Let's take a look at how close it was. Look at this, Justin.
Yes, he came in, there's some lines just there on the road. He went by, and then the lights go. He was literally 30 feet away from being able to make that.
Yeah, there's a couple of hash marks there, as you can see, and you've got to be all 4 wheels to the right of that before the red light comes on, and it was literally within a car length. It could have been the perfect call, and it just went the wrong side of that.
Went the wrong side by specifically 60 seconds. A green flag running.
And the team will give the driver the information, but they're not down at that end of the track. They don't have that viewpoint as down to the driver then to make the call. I beat the light or I didn't. You can roll through. If you've kind of run afoul of that, you can roll through without a penalty, but Scott didn't tell the team. They did a full service. Now they're sitting still for the best part of a lap.
60 seconds feels like 60 minutes when you're sitting there on a track like this when the lap is so fast and the delta in the pit lane is so small, isn't it, Calvin? That
well, there's 25 seconds you lose just by coming down pit lane at the correct speed limit, plus 60 seconds. That means it over a lap. He's going to be 1 lap down to the leader, Dane Cameron, when he comes back out.
Well, certainly the GTLM cars are getting on with their weekly fight as just straight after that restart there. In the lead, we have Patrick Pilet, who's just got behind the wheel. Dirk Werner, Visicella behind. Wolf Hensler, as you mentioned there, I just want to have a quick shout out. I think Brian Sellers has driven excellently this weekend. He was super quick during qualifying. Early, he got on it very fast, and he certainly handed the car over in great shape.
Yeah, I spoke to Phil Harris, who's the team manager for Derek Walker Racing and the Falcon Tire team, and he just said, you know, you never know. He said sometimes in practice we're struggling a bit and suddenly the car comes alive, and I think it's all down to the different track conditions. We see the sun peeking through a little bit more. Is that good or bad news? You just never know. As you mentioned, Bob, this is the only different tire manufacturer represented in the GTLM class other than Michelin, but they certainly can get the job done as we saw at Watkins Glen.
That's right, coming in off a big win for this team. Their sponsor is leaving at the end of the season. And they are looking to continue with Brian Sellers, Wolf Hensler, and that very race car. Brian.
And in here with Brian Sellers. So impressed with what you guys did at Watkins Glen. You and I were just talking about qualifying. Weather conditions here seem to change everything.
Yeah, the track's way different to the morning conditions to the afternoon conditions. This morning it's good grip, it's cool, fast in a straight line, but the heat comes up and you really lose a lot of grip from the tire. And in qualifying we missed our pressure and temperature ratio, but it seems to be a bit better through the race, and as the race goes, we can continue to adjust and hit the right spot for the end. But right now, the car seems to be racing pretty well.
Yeah, Brian said its races better than it qualified. And remember, they are the only Porsche team to have a victory so far this season. Jamie?
Well, Mike O'Gara's brutal penalty for you guys, 60 seconds. I heard you on the radio saying, sorry, bud, that was my fault. What happened?
Yeah, we thought we could make it in before the yellow. You know, a lot of times the yellows are delayed, and we were right there at pit in, so I thought we could make it in. The yellow light flashed one time before Scott was past that line. I mean, it was a matter of inches. I'll take responsibility for that one. That was my fault. We're a lap down now. We're gonna have to figure out how to get back on that late lap.
The strategy's gonna be even more important. Thank you. The strategy more important now.
Yep. We'll get him back.
Thank you.
Well, I think he's taking a lot on his shoulders there, because he can't. The driver's the only person who can see, am I across the line or not? And you have the ability to tuck back onto the racetrack or roll down pit lane. It's not ideal, but it's better than losing a lap. So hats off to Michael O'Gara. He's a quality guy. But, I mean, I think Scott would need to give him the information, the team the information, saying, guys, I didn't beat the light.
Yeah, well, and hindsight is always 20/20. I wonder, even if Scott said, that was really close.
Right.
Maybe you err on the side of caution, say, okay, go through, and we'll pit next time.
And I think with their performance this year, they've got a little bit of a break with the adjustment of performance, a bit more front aero this weekend, but they still don't seem to quite have that edge to really just go out and win these races. So I think they're rolling the dice a bit more. It's very un-Ganassi-like to not be be this far into a season where they haven't won a race. They feel to get a victory, we've got to take a few chances.
So look at the point situation in GT Le Mans following the most recent round of the championship, the 6 hours at the Glen.
And right now, that number 25 BMW of Werner and Orblin sits in the second spot with the number 3 car of Garcia and Magnussen down in 6th. So it could be a big point swing here today.
Corvette fans recall that the number 3 chassis was crashed in practice at Le Mans. Jan Magnussen very fortunate to come away without injury, but the car could not start the race. They ran Watkins Glen 2 weeks ago with the 3rd remaining chassis in that C7R configuration that they got from the Larbra team that normally competes in Europe. They're running that same borrowed chassis this weekend. They hope to have the original number 3 back on track for the next round of the championship.
We talked to Dan Binks about that this morning, Bob, and he said that the number 3 car that is theirs is actually repaired now. It's at the shop. It's just not race ready. They haven't done any setup work on it, so they're going to send this car back to France this coming Friday, and then they're going to get to work on the number 3 car and have it ready for Road America.
Right now, as you watch, sorry, Bob, as you're watching these GTLM cars go wind their way through the track, they're so closely bunched up, all these different manufacturers, all these different drivetrains, all these different configurations. I'm trying to analyze what the drivers will be. They're right now, it's this constant analysis when you're in the car of not just what the driver's doing in front, but how the car's behaving in front, the car behind them. We're seeing little shifts going around it. Actually, I was looking, Dirk Werner was looking just that little bit faster than Patrick Pilet right up at the front, and you know, of this class. And I think you're going to see that over the next 5-10 laps is a very important moment in this GTLM, because you're starting to get the full measure of how fast the competition can go over the middle to the end of these fast stints. Because right now, if you can't go by on track, how are you going to position it, Calvin, to be in a position to lead going into the final pit stop? Out of the final pit stop, sorry.
Ring down the straightaway into turn 1. Fast downhill right-hander. Porsche is synonymous with endurance sports car racing, but even by their lofty standards, it's been an incredible June and July. Overall victory at Le Mans. Back to the United States, 1st and 2nd at the 6 hours of Watkins Glen, led by the number 17 Falcon car. Can they get 3 in a row here in Canada?
You can hide where you want to. You can run where you may. But nothing on earth gonna save you when the man come down your way.
So much history written here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Now here's the number 16 that was leading the prototype challenge class.
Different strategy here, Bob. They decided not to pit because the driver was not at the 60-minute mark. They now are. So John Falber's jumped out. It's going to be Sean Rahal, who's super quick, jumping in behind the wheel. But obviously, they got a bit of catch-up to do. At the same time, a minute shy of the drive time. A problem for the 52 car is only second in the championship right now, just a point behind the championship leader. Suddenly, Mike Wash felt a problem with the race car, Justin. He hit pit lane, and they do not have the opportunity to get him as they continue to work on the car.
Yeah, we overheard them on the radio saying there was a fluid leak, so let's just listen in.
Something broke on the car. I mean, it won't steer right. I'm going to pit this lap. Something's broken in the steering. It's all pointy and something's wrong.
I've got a feeling it could be power steering if there's fluid down in there, and suddenly he just wasn't getting the normal reaction to the steering inputs.
Yeah, we saw him coming in the pit lane, jostling the steering wheel, so more on that story. Jamie?
Well, as the team still works on that car, Mike went on and said that he felt something slippery in the foot box, so he's dealing with it in the cockpit as well. This is precious time on pit lane, but meanwhile, up pit lane a little bit, that number 8 machine from Star Wars, they're getting ready to get Mirko Schultes out of that PC car.
You're watching the new class leader and reigning champion in class, John Bennett, the number 54. But he, too, will have a stop coming up to switch over to Colin Brown.
But what a drive by Schultes to dig deep and stay on the lead lap. In fact, he's running in the 3rd spot here with the other pit stops that we've just seen. So Renger van der Zande has absolutely been flying here this weekend, and Starworks going for 3 in a row with the Peter Barron-led squad.
Yeah, John Bennett has looked so good. It was funny, I saw a group of the team in the lunch, or late brunch as it would be here this morning, and they were like, yeah, John's got his game on this weekend. He's hammered down this weekend and ready to go. So, but you know what, driving, as watching Mirko go through the corner there in the number 8, driving when you're sick is actually pretty darn miserable, because when you drive a race car, and as you said, Calvin, a physical track like this, the speeds are so high, concentration is so intense. You can actually do it with physical pain, like a hurt shoulder or a leg or a back because of the driving position. But internally, it's very hard when you have a stomach. It drains you, changes your body chemistry, makes it very hard.
Well, hats off to the so-called gentleman drivers or Pro-Am drivers. They're businessmen. Mirko Schultes, Mike Wash, John Bennett. They have busy lives on weekdays, and then they come to a place as fast and intimidating as this, and they're mixing it up with the best drivers in sports cars and the prototypes and the GTLMs. I think they do a great job. Well, it's time for us announcers to take a quick coffee break while you enjoy the Tequila Patron sounds of speed.
Fast laps. These guys are still a little.
And remember, you can check out onboard passes, onboard cameras live at foxsports.com/Tudor as Mirko Schultes has made it to the Star Works pit to hand over to Renger van der Zande.
Yeah, we should call him the Flying Dutchman because he is absolutely bionic in one of these cars, Jimmy.
Well, it wasn't a pretty driver change. Mirko crawled out of that cockpit, and when Renger van der Zande was getting in, Mirko noticed that he actually twisted one of the side view mirrors on that car, so not sure that he got it lined up quite right. They're going to talk to him over the radio and see if they need to make an adjustment at the next pit stop. But nonetheless, Renger is now behind the wheel.
And it looks like Mirko is feeling the effort.
It was a tremendous effort too. I mean, just keeping the car on the lead lap and running very good lap times actually. So hats off to that man. John Bennett continues to lead now in the PC class. This team remarkably still haven't seen victory lane here this year. They come so close on occasion, including that one at Daytona, where they lost all in the last 20 minutes or so of that race.
To the GTLM class, Giancarlo Fisichella, the Formula One veteran in the Ferrari 458 Italia, battling with Wolf Hensler in the Falcon Porsche, 3rd and 4th in GTLM.
Of course, right now, the man on a mission in the 01, of course, is Scott Pruitt trying to get, well, it's not really redemption, it's just getting your head down and not making a mistake and hoping you can position itself, hoping there's a yellow, you can take advantage of it. Believe me, if any team in this pit lane can work on some dynamic strategy to get him back to the front, it will be the Ganassi Racing team. But their work is cut out because on the track, you simply can't go quick enough.
Oh, you can't, and he's a lap down, and you know, with so many other competitive teams, and certainly all those teams are good on strategy too, you're not going to pull a fast one, so to speak, so it's going to be a long day for both Scott Pruitt and Joey Hand when he jumps in behind the wheel of the 01.
Yeah, they're going to run out of race first, aren't they? At the Glen, they might have had a different story, but we're watching there as Wolf Hensler winding his way. He's got the BMW right behind him. John Edwards getting very sporty. Tell you what, it's been really fun this weekend to watch the Risi Competizione Ferrari out there. The sound of that Ferrari engine, it just sounds magnificent up here. And of course, I had some of the fans saying, Bob, it was quite a nice thing. We saw the history piece earlier. They just remember Ferrari here. The big names of motorsport have raced and driven around this track. There's some fans out there that remember it from Formula One. So it's just great having these multitude of amazing manufacturers out here now, of course, in sports cars.
And that Risi crew and their Ferraris have done very, very well at this track over the years with multiple victories and podium finishes. There's a look at the championship as they run, not as of Watkins Glen a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, he runs wide. Moss corner.
Giancarlo.
Also hearing radio reports that Dane Cameron, who leads this motor race, may have a flat tire problem. He may have to pit.
Oh, man.
He's only got a 7-second lead as he comes down to do that stop. So,
oh, that's a bad break for that team. Really, really tough break. He had opened it up to a 7-second lead over Oz Negri. And suddenly you can see there.
Puncture, box this lap.
Coming up on 90 minutes to go in this race. A lot still to happen. Scott Pruitt certainly not out of it for Ganassi, nor Dane Cameron and Eric Curran.
Well, a lazy gun there on the left front too. It took a long while to get that left front undone, and that may cost him a little bit because it's not a full fuel load, so these tire changes are critical. It's okay when you're doing a full fuel load, but when it's just a half a tank, like he needed there, suddenly a little bit of delay cost him another precious second or two.
And of course, as you can see from the spectacular split screen action that we had there, he's also got to get through all the GTLM cars to get anywhere near the back of the prototype field.
Punctures have been a bit of an issue this weekend around CTMP, and every class has been affected. We'll take a break and return to Canada. They're in the Moss corner. Back live at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, there's the number 60, Ligier, JSP2 from Michael Shank Racing. Oswaldo Negri told me on Friday the car needed work to be fast, and obviously the team got the work done. He has set the fast lap of the race, 1 minute 10.2 seconds, and he leads Joao Barbosa in the Mustang sampling Corvette Daytona prototype by 2 seconds. Oz is also the star of this weekend's edition of the Continental Tire For What You Do feature. We'll learn from Oz what he does to stay fit and how he got his start in racing long ago.
I did 5 triathlons in 2014, and I did pretty well on them. I qualified for the USAT Nationals in Wisconsin, which is unfortunately is the same weekend as the one that we raced at Road America. So I won't be doing my triathlon. What I like about it is the camaraderie between everybody. The vibe is so cool. I don't train for it. I train for my profession, which is to drive the car. And I just go out there and have fun. At 7 a.m. in the Brazilian channel, they used to show go-kart race. And one day I look at my dad and I said, I wanna do that. And my dad goes like, yeah. When I win on a lottery prize, I'll buy one. I go, Dad, I'm praying right now, you're gonna win it. It took 2 weeks and he won. As he promised, he bought me a type of go-kart. From then on, it was just like, yoo-hoo.
So I guess Oz Negri qualifies as a Pro-Am triathlete.
Fought his way into the game.
Just like us in this booth.
Yeah.
I'd be satisfied just to hit the lottery like his dad did.
What a story.
Yeah, it's lovely. And what a nice guy, tremendous family. Obviously lives down in South Florida. And, you know, he had a pretty bad accident. And that's what you say when you hear him doing about a triathlons 4, that was his motivation to get fit enough to get ready for racing. But it's also, he's exceeded his fitness level before he even had his accident, damaged his feet.
Came off a mountain bike and hurt his leg very badly. Here he is. On board the number 25 GTLM BMW in the hands of Dirk Werner, who has been in there, correct me if I'm wrong, since the start of this race.
He has. He hasn't turned it over to Bill Auberlen yet, so different strategies playing out here, but certainly that BMW has been very quick. John Edwards has cleared Wolf Hensler, so he moves the second of the BMWs up to the 4th position, chasing now the Ferrari of Giancarlo Fisichella. But I think this Porsche versus BMW battle is going to go all the way to the wire today.
Now there's the number 52 serving a penalty. Apparently they had too many crewmen over the wall to fix that steering problem that Mike Gouache reported. They have a long day ahead of them.
And that's sometimes when you have a problem which is out of the norm, suddenly you get out of sync, whether it's a tire change, fueling, you know your sequence, you know who does what, but suddenly there's a panic involved. They're in the thick of a championship battle. It's a big problem. You're tearing the car apart, trying to get down into that foot box, and suddenly, before you know it, hey, someone jumped over the wall, they had a tool or something, and you're going to get caught.
We've seen it happen with even the best teams, but we're watching right there as Colin Braun winds his way through the corner, the Porsche BMW behind. Now, it's interesting. You know, when we just were watching a few seconds ago with the BMW, the Porsche ahead, I was just thinking to myself, Calvin, how they really are so equal in their performance around here. The way those Michelins are working through these corners, it's almost like they're matching each other 10th for 10th. And that makes it very demanding on a driver, because actually you have to drive to the optimum, but really it looks like you're not excelling. You know, because all you can do is hold station with the guy in front. We did just see a PC car go by him, and almost that's as disruptive as you are coming up on slower traffic. We talk about this track as being demanding and fast, but it's also very, very hard to overtake. So we're going to see it. It's all going to be down in the pits again and again and again.
On board the number 10, currently shown 4th in prototype in the overall, Brian.
You guys talking about every piece of the puzzle has to match, every pit stop, every driver change. And right now, this weekend, Konica Minolta Wayne Taylor Racing team dealing with a new crew member, Bill Mullen, who normally helps with the driver changes, has hurt his knee. He's going to have surgery. So Skip Fall is helping with the driver changes, and you can lose time there. He's never done one in competition. Obviously, he has now, but he hadn't before this weekend, and there was a little hiccup with the driver change. Not saying it's his fault, but you say everything's got to work perfectly. You see a little bit of delay there on the first driver change there with the number 10 team. Also, just to let you know, I've been listening to the scanners, listening to Mike Shank talk to Oz Negre in the 60. He said, we got to be a little bit careful. We're starting to get high temperatures on our power steering pump. So these heavily loaded corners around here beginning to take their toll on some of this machinery, not in tires and suspension, but on power steering units.
Yeah, I spoke to some of the prototype teams here this weekend. They actually had to change their setup on the cars in terms of downforce and the camber settings because they were getting into power steering failure in these corners for so long, as the guys have been talking about, and it just overloads the system. So you've got to try and take some of the load out of the car, out of the suspension, and off the power steering a little bit. So, you know, how they can do that. I think there's an adjustment on the Ligier with the power steering setting, so maybe Oz can do something there.
You mean as in transfer, reduce the assistance and put it back on the driver? So,
well, that triathlon will come in handy.
Yeah. I think that's his legs, mate, not his arms.
He had to lift that big medal out.
Yeah.
Just about time for our Nissan halfway leader, and that would be the aforementioned Oz Negre, the number 60 Ligier JSP2 prototype for Michael Shank Racing.
You talk about in the prototype category, Bob, two different really classes of car. You've got the P2 type car, and then you've got the Daytona prototype kind of history of this car following him. So there's horses for courses, and they've really done a great job. They're very different animals in terms of the technical specs of the cars, but they keep working at it to try and make them equal on all types of race circuits. But this is one, oh, you see Negre there really twitching there as he's looking for a way by that Corvette. This is one that really suits this P2 car. It's got all about downforce, it's all about high-speed corners, and that's what Mike Shank and his boys have here this weekend, and Oz has done a great job leading the race right now.
Last victory for Michael Shank Racing was the 2012 Rolex 24 at Daytona. Remember that one? Oz Negre, John Pugh, who are in the car today, A.J. Allmendinger, and Justin Wilson. And that was a Daytona prototype, not the Ligier we see them in today.
Been quick all season long, Bob. Couple of podium runs middle of the season, but it's all about just executing. John Pugh did a great job keeping the car right in the thick of the battle here on his opening stint. He's one of the only what we call Pro-Am drivers in the prototype class.
Yeah, what we saw there was how traffic can affect you. He didn't manage to get by the Falcon Tires Porsche as they head through turn 10, so that allowed João Barbosa to get right up behind him as they're heading down into turn 1. João, as you can see there, is positioning himself to try and get a better run through turn 1. Not much he can do because there's actually a traffic line in front of him, but you're going to watch going up into turn 3 here could be a bit sporty.
Look at that, the speed differential there. That's all about downforce.
Oh, he's got the run on him,
car.
Calvin, as he goes up there. He did get blocked in front of João. Great view here from the 17 Porsche.
You just got to tread carefully. You got to be patient. You're digging down on every year of experience. Look at this. Barbosa tucks it to the inside as Negre is struggling there. He's getting the radio communication from his spotter saying there's a car on your outside.
Oh, that's good stuff, that is. But you have to make the most of that opportunity. It's not to come around every lap.
But think about the big picture. Barbosa has to be thinking about championship. He's not battling for points with the number 60, so don't throw it all away here, looking for the lead.
He might not be thinking about it, but his team will.
Oz Negre saying that the power steering getting worse, guys, so when they get in traffic and he's got to work that car hard in those high load areas, getting worse. Mike Shank just shook his head and he goes, he's in great shape, but I don't know if he's going to make it, guys.
Oh, man. Well, Oz Negre weathered that storm of traffic as João Barbosa tried to pin the Brazilian behind a slower car.
It was almost a perfect move, Bob. He almost did a perfect box-in move. But Oz is now laid the hammer down again. Just he doesn't need that kind of aggro behind him as you go into. You've got to have a little buffer, more than half a second when you hit the traffic. Otherwise, the guy is going to be up your chuff. So,
well, the 60 car excels on an open road in terms of just laying down the laps. When you get into traffic, the Daytona prototype and the engine spec there has a bit more torque. It can deal with the traffic a little bit better. It's not so critical in being in the perfect RPM range and stuff like that. So certainly advantage swings the other way very quickly.
Well, a few gray hairs on the heads of Oz Negre and João Barbosa. In fact, Barbosa and teammate Christian Fittipaldi in that Action Express Mustang sampling number 5 Corvette chasing Oz Negre have completed every racing mile of the year-plus history of the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship. 11,800 miles coming into today's race. We'll be back.
Our race fans think about performance, they think about engine, they think about horsepower, they think about torque. The most seldom thought about, perhaps, is aerodynamics. Here at Corvette Racing, we know flush fit headlamps reduce the overall drag on the car. What we don't talk about often is something like this front splitter, this front shelf on the race car, which actually improves front downforce, increasing the pressure on the tire, improving braking, improving cornering for the driver. Our side rocker sills, which help reduce the aerodynamic drag of the car. And then we finish that up with our rear diffuser. This rear diffuser is designed to help speed the air out from underneath the car at a faster rate than it travels over the top of the car, essentially building an upside-down airplane wing. Once again, improving downforce, pressing that car to the racetrack, improving cornering, improving braking. All these lessons that we've learned here at Corvette Racing are incorporated into the Corvette you buy at your dealer showroom. All these lessons in racing are going to help us succeed here at our fastest track, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, this weekend. Stay tuned. It's going to be a great event.
Well, thanks to Doug Feehan. There's the number 3 Corvette, part of the DECRA Green Challenge. It's a complex algorithm put together by IMSA, the Society of Automotive Engineers, and the Environmental Protection Agency, giving points to the car that completes the race clean, fast, and efficient. Right now, the number 3 from Corvette Racing leads the 25 BMW Z4 from Team RLL and the 911 Porsche from Porsche's North American factory team. We understand the 5 car has come to the pits from second. Jamie awaits him.
And this was not a stop that they had on their schedule today, Bob. They have a left rear tire that's going down a little bit, so they went ahead, made the safety decision to bring Joao in. They're going to go ahead and top him off with fuel, give him 4 new Continental tires, and send him back out. They're hoping for a quick stop. This is going to change their strategy now as we head into the second half of this race, so they're going to have to adjust to that, but it's a great team, and if anybody can do it, they can. Brian?
Well, the Racing Competizione team knows how to win here. Pierre Caffer, you've been on the podium here before. Listening to you on the radio, though, the car changed a lot from the drop of the green flag till the end of your stint. What have you guys been able to do to change the balance of the Ferrari?
We changed slightly our tire pressure to have an influence in our setup. And so far, Giancarlo is doing a very good job. And as you see, the GTLM class is very tight. So we need to push and to fight until the end, which is not so easy against all the other competitors. But so far, we have a great race.
You've had a little bit of a rest. Are you going to get back in here in the next few minutes?
Yes, I will be back in the car very soon. And I will get ready.
Thanks for taking the time. Giancarlo Fisichella finishing his stint, and then Caffer will be back into the checker.
We sat, didn't we, Calvin, and had a little lunch with them, that pairing, Caffer and Fisichella, the other day, and it was funny. I was such a fan of Giancarlo's in Formula One, and I said, what's it like living in Rome as a former Ferrari Formula One driver? And he said, you know, it's still pretty good. I don't think the ability to get a table ever diminishes once you've been a Ferrari factory driver.
You got that right. On board with Jordan Taylor, 3rd in class for the Konica Minolta team.
Great battle here between the Konica Minolta team and the VisitFlorida.com number 90. Valiente's done a great job here. We understand Negri's kind of running low on fuel. He's on a different strategy. 4 less laps fuel on board than the 90 and the 10, so he's going to have to hit pit lane before the rest.
Meanwhile, the race leader has hit pit lane. Oswaldo Negri. Brian is there.
Ligier chassis just so absolutely beautiful and so efficient as far as aerodynamics around this very difficult circuit here. Negri staying in the car, obviously. Guys, looking at the tires, they'll change all 4 Continental tires and fill with fuel. This racetrack has some sharp edges in some of the areas around it, and it's been really playing havoc on a lot of the tires on all of the different classes throughout the weekend. So they're going to take the chance to change tires. Crew members trying to remove debris from the radiators. Perhaps they can get some more fresh air in there and help that power steering unit as well.
It is a beautiful race car, helped with their sponsor Aero.
Brian, would I be right in saying we've seen a few cut tires over the weekend, over the course of this weekend? Because certainly flats have been an issue. Is that a trend down in the pit lane? Are people very aware of that?
I think throughout the weekend we've seen a lot of that. There have been different places where the track has been repaired, and with the loads that are on these tires going through over uneven surfaces, that can certainly damage tires. And like I said, it's been through all the classes, so there have been different tires involved, and that makes you believe that it's something out on the racetrack, not necessarily curbs or something like that. But you know, this racetrack, you guys talked about it. It is old school, it is fast, it has high loads, and it wears all of the equipment, especially the tires.
Not many runoff areas, but apparently some of the runoff areas where there is kind of a gravel has like almost like a seashell type consistency to it, so it's quite sharp, and there's conjecture that that may be one of the reasons we're seeing that issue here this weekend.
So we're about to see probably a series of pit stops. People are coming up for it right now, strategic ones, and the 01 is coming down pit lane.
Nice and easy here.
Jamie?
And there's still over an hour left in this race, and these cars can only go 55 to 57 minutes on fuel, so they're probably going to have to make another stop here for fuel. The Ganassi team trying to make up some ground. Still a lap down, though. Driver change has already happened. Joey Hand now getting strapped in 4 new Continental tires. They are, of course, going to fill up this fuel tank as well, and hopefully send Joey out and try to get back on the lead lap.
Had a slight adjustment of performance right around those front wheel arches. Very hard to see. It's just a 1/4 inch little wick, a little gurney there that gives the front end a little bit more downforce. They've had more rear downforce they could run all year, but they couldn't balance the car. And it's not just cramming downforce in. If you can't turn the car any longer, that doesn't help you. Now they're saying they've got a bit more grip.
That's how fine the tolerances are at this level of sports car racing. The Konica Minolta car for Wayne Taylor Racing is in. Brian Till is there.
Jordan Taylor right to the marks. The crew will go to work. No driver change, so Jordan will take it to the checkered flag. Loose wheel nut on pit lane. Crew has to go to work on the left front, pull that extra wheel nut off. They keep it on their belt just in case they lose one. It's exactly what they're doing here. Lost very little time. Continental's going on the right side. Jordan Taylor will be down and away, Jamie.
I just want to continue on what Calvin was saying about this little flap that Ganassi's gotten this weekend. You can see it right here. Just to put in perspective how thin this actually is, this is my iPhone, and when I hold it up, it's the exact same thickness. So something that small is giving this team extra grip here this weekend.
Yeah, it just basically extricates the air out of the front end of the car and creates less lift. So it's actually keeping the front end on the ground and giving you the grip, pushing the tires into the deck and giving it grip.
How do you spell that, Calvin? It's a beautiful word, extricate. There it is. But everything counts, especially, and of course it's not linear at all. As you go faster, more downforce. So we watched. Okay.
Michael Valiante has the race leading 90. The points leaders are in the pit.
Great stint, and I tell you what, they were scratching their heads all weekend long because they could not get the balance in this race car. Just too much understeer. Spoke to Michael at the drivers' meeting last night. Just said I had nothing. He pulled out a great lap at the end to jump to the 4th spot on the grid. But good run here, Jamie, for the 90 squad.
Yeah, I talked to team owner Troy Fliss about it this morning, and he said the problem that they're having is in what they call the body attitude of the car. They're having a hard time controlling the car in this high speed. He said, we definitely have a podium car today, but in order to get a win, we're going to have some luck. So I think this race is unfolding a little bit better than what they were expecting. Driver change complete. It was a very quick stop.
And into the car goes one of the great closers in the sport, Richard Westbrook, getting in for Michael Valiante, hoping they can pick up a victory in front of Valiante's home fans. Now when the number 10 Konica Minolta car, Jordan Taylor, came to the pits, he had to get down to the pit lane speed limit, and he had to do it in a very smoky way. Back live at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, now in its 55th season. Great motorsports action. You'll see the time remaining in the race coming up on 1 hour. And a lot of stories and strategies still to play out. Through the Moss corner. Ironically, perhaps the slowest corner complex. On board with Joel Miller in the 07 Mazda Sky Active diesel prototype.
We talked about at Watkins Glen the fact that Mazda are considering switching back to a gasoline-powered race car for subsequent rounds. They actually tested here with that car early in the week, and it was very quick. So John Doonan leaves this racetrack, heads to Japan, and they're trying to make a decision on their direction for the rest of the year.
Time for our Mazda mid-race report. For that, here's Brian Till.
Well, there's plenty of speculation about the test here on Tuesday, Calvin, but there's nobody better to tell us about it than Jonathan Bomarito. Jonathan, you and Tristan Nunez not racing the prototype here. You raced a Continental Tire Mazda. I won't be a spoiler on any results on that, but give us some idea of what you guys were testing on Tuesday and how that test turned out.
Yeah, we have some very exciting things coming in the future. We were testing out here against some of our competitors on Tuesday, like you said, went really well. So, you know, we're constantly learning and evolving, and very excited for what's to come. You know, we're running the Sky D still with the 07 out here now. They're having a great race, good showing. So, you know, the whole Mazda Speed Source team's working as hard as ever, and we're going to be there at the sharp end of this grid really soon.
And I think the good news is that car was indeed very, very quickly, so we know they've got a good bullet in the gun. John Doonan just has to get over to Japan and get corporate to play ball. Jamie?
Well, as Christian Fittipaldi watched on, you told me Joao Barbosa is happy with the car right now, but when the closest competition is a teammate, how does that change the complexity of the race?
Well, Action Express wants to win. And obviously they're going to try their very best, either with the 31 or the 5. Dane and Eric, they want the 31 to win, and Joe and I, we want the 5. But we have a lot of respect amongst the team, so I'm going to be honest. If we can't win, I'm going to cheer very bad for the 31 to win.
You talk a lot about points coming into this weekend. You and Joao both were saying this is the time that we have to start building up those points. How heavily does that weigh on you when you take a green flag?
Well, basically, this time of the year is when we started cherishing last season. Right after we left Mosport, we won Indy, and then we won Elkhart Lake. I think it was 2 races in a row. And then the whole championship changed a lot in our favor. Right now, we're trailing the 90 by 5 points. There's still some racing to go. Hopefully, we can finish well over here and see where we leave this place, and then start planning out onto the next one.
It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Thank you.
Well, with just a few races remaining, this is the time of year where the schedule either works for you if you're leading or against you if you're trailing.
John Edwards there should be his final pit stop. It's very tight. The number I heard was 56, 57 minutes. We're just over that number in terms of how far he can go. So trying to squeak out here may be a strategy call, because you get him in just as that window opens. If there was a yellow here before the leaders get in, could be a real ace move here, but they respond.
Yep, here comes.
The dominoes fall. As soon as one of the leaders comes in, you have to respond, Justin.
Yeah, you have to respond, but Brian, it's going to be all action in critical pit stops.
Yeah, and you're putting a fresh Nick Tandy in the 911. That's going to be magic for that team. He has been absolutely quick. They got to get this pit stop done and get it done flawlessly and get back on track. See what they can get. Maybe a checker flag, Jamie.
It's a very similar pit stop for the number 25 BMW. They're doing their driver change, so Bill Oberlin is now behind the wheel of this car as 4 new Michelin tires are going on. Quick stop, fuel taking longer than expected, though. Must be a thirsty race car. He did get bit out of pit lane by that number 911, so that was a pretty bit of a slow stop there.
We see the 31 on pit lane. I don't think they're inside their fuel window, so I wonder if there's further issues there with the number 31 car as Dane Cameron brings the car to pit lane.
And another tire change.
I figured he got 10 more minutes. 48 minutes was the fuel number I was hearing for prototypes this morning, so have to wait and see what happened. Jamie?
Well, I'm not sure if there was a cut tire here. I was just down at BMW, but I did just hear on the radio a couple minutes ago that both the 5 and the 31 were going to be good on fuel to the end, and as long as they didn't have any more tire issues, they would not need to come back to pit lane. So I'm guessing that this was not a scheduled stop.
Yeah, no, I think they needed to get about another 7 or 8 minutes on that last run before they switch. So he's going to need big fuel save or some help with a quick caution to get into the checkered flag without the need of a splash of fuel, I think. It's a shame because they've really been quick here today, but things keep coming back to bite them.
I love the way you called it, Calvin. It was like one card falls, they all fall. You cannot afford, when the racing is this close, not to follow what the leader does in terms of strategy unless you're literally a lap down. We watched the Risi Ferrari come in. It looks like a driver change. We know that Pierre Caffer is going to get back in the car. Fisichella had a very solid run there. Kaffer's probably the sportier man in the car this weekend, I would say. And
they've been working on their
putting
pit
him back
stops.
in for the end.
Caffer was almost in Fisichella's lap there for a second before Giancarlo could get out of the car. Brian is at the Falcon pits.
Routine stop for the 62, looking at the Team Falcon Tire entry. Ryan Sellers taking over there. The Ferrari gets away just a little bit quicker. Important to remember this number 17 has been so fast right out of the box on new tires. We'll see what Brian Sellers could do, Jamie.
Number 4 also just on pit lane. It was fuel and 4 new Michelins for them. Tommy Milner stayed behind the wheel, but it was a quick stop.
Well, congratulations to Continental Tires, by the way. 2015 marks the 60th anniversary of a pair of world championships, sports cars with the iconic Mercedes 300 SLR and Formula One with Juan Manuel Fangio and the Mercedes W196. Happy birthday.
Talk About Tires usually focuses on the tire compound because that's the only part of the tire that touches the track surface. Michelin certainly agrees that tire compounds are very important, but here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, Michelin believes that that's only half of the story. CTMP is what Michelin calls a high-energy track. Here, the speeds, elevation changes, and corners place both high vertical and lateral loads on the tires. That means there's a lot of energy and stress going through the tires. Tires actually change their shape as they compress under braking and elevation changes, or when transferring loads on cornering. Michelin Motorsports Technical Director for North America, Ken Payne, says that the heat buildup due to all of those stresses also impacts the shoulder and the lower sidewall of the tire. To create successful constructions for here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park and other high-energy tracks like Road America and Road Atlanta, Michelin designers utilize different architectures, structures, and materials to optimize performance and enable teams to make those all-important multiple stints.
Well, those high load factors that Jamie spoke about have affected all sorts of performance parameters thus far, as we are just under 50 minutes remaining in the race.
Yeah, and obviously we heard about Oz Negri's problems with the power steering with the heavy loads. Problems again. Dane Cameron just slightly off strategy, unfortunately, to get to the finish on fuel. Let's listen to the radio communication between Dane and the team.
Okay, Dane, box this lap, please box this lap. Same reason as before, box this lap. So we will need to pit again now, unless we get yellows. Okay, we will need to pit again, but if we do that, we'll play it. Our pace is really good, so we'll just carry on as we are. Doing a great job, mate.
So that was from about 5 minutes ago, and basically they're saying you're going to be shy on fuel, going to need to do another stop unless we get some help from the yellow. So that left rear has been a bit of an issue for this 31 car. And again, there's corners like Moss Corner where you run over that curbing bob, and then we talk about the shale or whatever's in that gravel there. Something's causing some problems here today.
See tire debris around the racetrack. Let's go back to Jamie now.
Well, Dirk Werner now out of the number 25 BMW. And Dirk, we talk a lot about how daunting this racetrack is. You didn't race here last year. What was it like during your stint today?
Yeah, the temperatures are actually pretty high, and the track was quite greasy, I have to say. So it was difficult, especially in the first stint with the used tires from qualifying. And in the second stint it got a little bit better, and then I had some fun with the Porsche there. But I have to say I only had really one chance when you know, we were a little bit in traffic and I could go alongside Patrick, but he defended the inside. And then it's very difficult on this track. When you lose the downforce following another car, you nearly have no chance. So track position in qualifying is very important there. We got beaten by 300s. So anyways, in the end, we made a good job so far. Great pit stops. If we get P2 here, everybody's happy.
Yeah, the competition here is really tight, and Bobby Rahal said earlier this weekend, this is a track that's always kind of troubled the BMW, but you have a little bit of a bigger restrictor this year. How much has that helped?
Yeah, we have definitely a better balance of performance, and you have to say, looking back at all the races that happened so far, the BOP seems to work really well. Everybody's in between only, you know, a couple of hundreds. So you can see there's different makes winning in the different races. I think it's a great championship with awesome competition, and maybe today will be the first win for the Porsche, the second win for the Porsche. We have 2 wins already, so I mean, it's so difficult to win the championship, and if you get a podium, you've done a great job.
Beautifully said. We'll see what Bill can do. Brian?
Well, Jamie, Porsche North America still is looking for that first victory, and Patrick Pilet, you've handed the car back to Nick Tandy. I know he said after qualifying that track temperature here was key. And talking to the Michelin guys, they're saying the track temperature is as high as it's been. What's the balance of the car like?
The balance was quite good. We're just struggling a little bit in the slow corners with the traction, but the BM was a bit quicker in 2 last corners. But our car was really good in the fast corners. I have to defend in a straight line when he was close because he was a bit quicker than us. But actually the car was pretty consistent. The difficulty is with the traffic and to keep the pace without making any mistakes. It's a really quick track here and it's really easy to make a mistake, so it was a goal.
3 different classes. It's the different classes running than here last year. It was GTD, GTLM, and prototypes. With the cars running similar lap times, does that make it even more difficult this year?
Yeah, especially with the PC, it's really close. They are a bit quicker, but not that much in the fast corners. They're losing a lot of time behind us, and but we have our race also. We try to do that block, but sometimes it's hot, like when they try to overtake in corner 4. It's really tricky place to overtake, so sometimes we close the door just to be more safe for us, actually.
Challenging. That's certainly what this racetrack is for every one of these competitors, Jamie.
And challenging also, Brian, is this points championship. Coming into this race, Jan Magnussen, you and Antonio Garcia were tied for the points lead, but now you're running in the 4th position. What are you missing here at CTMP?
Well, I think the car is actually pretty good. I think we missed something in qualifying yesterday, so that we started a little bit in the back. And it's been really, really difficult making up to these places here. You can get close, but getting by is really, really difficult. So, but the car is good. We just needed to be closer to the BMWs from the beginning.
What are your expectations then for the ending of this race?
Oh, we'll see. The gap to the BMW that we are fighting is quite big, but you know, if we can get by one more car, so we can finish right behind him, then you know the gap isn't too big for the next race.
Thank you, Jan. Brian?
Oz Negri was just in the 60. A little problem leaving. It was fuel only. Remember, he is under some extreme physical conditions right now without that power steering working the way it should. He had a problem getting it in gear leaving here from the pit stop, and that lost him a little bit more time. Negri just trying to hold on to the end here. We talked about how physical this racetrack is. Imagine it with the power steering going away.
Yeah, and they're really playing the strategy call. They're inside that window where they can get to the finish now without another stop for fuel. Will be interesting to see if anyone else responds to that. The cars up front can certainly go a lot further before they need fuel, but if there's a yellow, suddenly pit lane is closed, and suddenly it come back to bite you.
And you heard Dirk Werner refer to another aspect of that whole forces working on the car thing we've been yapping about all day long, and that is when you get up and you lose downforce behind the car ahead, you're going to start sliding, abusing those tires, and creating more problems. The number 8 is in the prototype challenge class. It's Renger van der Zande, second to Colin Brown at this moment.
Seemed like he's quite a long way behind on the road, so it was probably the right thing to do. But these windows are going to open up right now, Calvin. So as you say, if who follows them in will be quite interesting. Oh, and the 90 does.
Jamie.
Yes, 90 taking this opportunity as well. It looks like it will be a 4 new Continental Tire stop as well as fuel. So a little bit of a different strategy being played out here. Left sides are on. A little bit of a holdup there.
2 tires only, I think, Jamie, and I think what you're trying to do there is really match the tire stop to not a full fuel load going on board. You don't want to delay the stop by waiting for those 4 tires, so I like that call. 60 didn't take tires. That's really a no-brainer. You're not losing any time because you're waiting for the fuel anyway.
See what the 10 does when he comes on board. It'll be interesting to see if they just go for the 2 left, as you can see him pulling very fast pit lane entrance there, down to speed. Don't lock up. Well, it doesn't matter if you do, but make sure you're at the right speed as you pull up towards your stand.
Thinking about Oz Negri having trouble getting the 60 in gear on the pits too. I wonder if the gearbox is having issues down to those stresses that are being put through the entire race car. Brian.
The 10 car does, Brian.
Here we go. Crew going to work. Left side tires, driver change obviously not happening. Fuel going in. I don't see right side tires up on the wall. I think it's going to be lefts only. A little delay with the left front. Doesn't matter. Fuel still going in. Crew out of the way. Gordon Taylor underway. And I just heard Mike Shank say on the radio to Oz Negri in the 60, we've got 42 minutes left. I need everything you've got, Oz. I need everything you've got.
Yeah, they're going to have to dig deep, that's for sure. And the 10 car is so good on pit lane today. Couple of little bobbles, one there with the tire change. We saw the driver change earlier. Jamie?
And Colin Braun has now brought the number 54 to pit lane from the PC class lead. They are going to take 4 new Continental tires, so all the way around this race car. Talking to them this weekend, they were so excited to come back here. Remember, Prototype Challenge was not here last year, so they're actually defending event winners as they did win the last time here in 2013. This is certainly a favorite for them. Right behind them on pit lane, the number 5 is hit pit road. Joao Barbosa behind the wheel. They do have 4 new Continental tires out. Left sides are going on right now. Fueling is still going in, and it looks like they are going to take tires all the way around the car, so 4 new for the number 5 machine.
And look at this. This is the delay. See, the fueling rig has been pulled and they're waiting on tires. So that cost them 3 or 4 seconds, but they'll have a little bit more grip in the race car. And hard to believe that the 54 car we just saw on pit lane, it's been over a year. Watkins Glen last year, since that team has seen Victory Lane, are defending series class champions.
Coming up. 01 coming up. 5 back.
So Joao Barbosa back on his way. You're on board with Joey Ham. We'll take a break and return with more. A beautiful day in Ontario. Back live at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Here's our Continental Tire race recap. The leaders in class, Dane Cameron, the Corvette prototype in prototype, oddly enough. Colin Braun in Prototype Challenge, and Nick Tandy in the first of the factory Porsches in GTLM.
Dane Cameron continues the lead, but as we heard from that radio communication, he's going to be a little bit shy on fuel. I think it would only take 1 yellow to maybe get him into the window. So, and again, they're going to be monitoring that left rear tire once again, as you see him there clearing some traffic there up into turn 8.
Yeah, and you only have one option, that is go flat out. It's certainly not the kind of track you can conserve fuel on, especially because then that becomes redundant. You just lost your track position if you do have a yellow. So they've got everything to play for, and we're going to obviously see that in the pace the car is running.
The one thing that they are probably discussing is, why are we encountering this tire issue? Is that some curbing issue that you're using, talking to the driver, maybe don't use as much road coming off a couple of the corners. They obviously don't want another tire issue. They're just fighting fuel strategy at this point.
Certainly using all the road there to go past the Corvette. Antonio Garcia, I believe, behind the wheel right then, but it's a little open stretch right now. We saw a lot of action through this section of the course throughout all the races this weekend, because that is such high-speed action coming down through that sort of decreasing radius left-hander before you get to turn 7 to get onto the back straight. So riding on board the 4 Corvette here, Tommy Milner, you could see right up in front of him. So who's going by him now? Just one of the PC cars. But you can see the speed differential. It's not that great, especially when they hit the braking area here, Calvin.
Now, the prototypes have a little bit more straightaway speed. They've got a bit more downforce in the corners, but mechanical grip-wise and through corners like this, the GTLM cars are very fast, have a lot of grip, obviously. So it's very close. We talked about at the top of the show, only 6-second spread between the fastest car in the field and the slowest, and that's over 3 classes, so it's a very tight field here this weekend. What a corner this is, though, turn 1. It will get your attention.
So Nick Tandy is back behind the wheel of the 911, and when you look at the lap times, if they're running clean and quick, it's in the low 15s, Calvin, but he's got about an 8.5 second lead over Bill Oberlin, but certainly no way to back down the pace, not with 40 minutes to go.
But remember, they came out of the pit lane within a couple of car lengths, so that's the lead that he's been able to build here. So certainly he's been hooked up. He had the pole position here yesterday. The car's been quick, and Nick Tandy really is on form at the moment. For Bill Oberlin and Dirk Werner, his teammates said, we'll be happy with second. They're thinking big picture in the championship, and right now the 911 is not really close enough to create a threat.
Riding on board a Porsche. Earlier we showed you our Porsche news and notes, and the big announcement this week that IMSA, the ACO, and the FIA have announced the 4 constructors who will build the next generation prototype chassis beginning in the 2017 season. Earlier this weekend, Brian Till followed up on that story.
Scott Atherton is president and COO of the International Motorsports Association. And Scott, just a couple of days ago, the ACO, the FIA, IMSA got together and made the announcement of the 4 constructors for prototypes in the 2017 championship. How important was it to get that announcement out as soon as you could so that the teams could plan for the future?
critically important. The budgets and the planning required at this level of motorsport, the sooner the better. And here we are in early July of 2015 for a car that will make its debut in January of 17. So it was important. What's really significant, though, is the fact that these three leading entities of motorsport were able to come together first to define the technical regulations, which will enable this prototype to be raced all around the world. Here in America, we'll have multiple engine manufacturers and the potential for bodywork changes, but our competitors will be able to go to Le Mans, and the European competitors will be able to race here. What was announced this week was those 4 constructors that will now make that prototype beginning in 2017. Selfishly speaking, for us in America, this is the best of both worlds, but we couldn't be more pleased.
Well, thanks to Scott Atherton for chatting with Brian about that. And the timing of that announcement is critical, particularly for teams racing in the Tudor Series, because while the rest of the world starts their prototype racing around March or so, this crew has the Rolex 24 every January down at Daytona International Speedway.
Absolutely, and we've got big changes in the GTD category with a lot more GT3 spec cars coming on board for next year, and it really puts the pressure on the manufacturers. And a lot of the European manufacturers, Bob, take big breaks over the holiday period. So that raw test in middle of January comes around really quick and creates issues. You basically got to have your act together by the beginning of December to have new cars in that test and ready for the first race of our championship.
Love the sound of these engines. Brian Till.
Standing down here with Ricky Taylor. And Ricky, we saw Jordan come in just a little while ago, do the 2-tire stop and fill with fuel. He should be good to go to the end with fuel, obviously. But the 2 left side tires, I look at turn 1, turn 3, 5, and 8, and I understand that. But with the old right side tires on, with the compression down in turn 2 and in turn 4, what's the balance on the car like when you go news on the left and olds on the right?
Yeah, it was just, it's not going to be fun, for sure. Yeah, I'm sure you'd prefer 4, but we're really racing the 90, and if we would have taken 4, we would have lost that track position. So that was just a track position call, waited to see what they did, and copied them. So everyone's kind of in the same boat. I think we've been good on the long run so far this weekend. Didn't show very well in my stint with our power steering issues, but I think Jordan should have a good car underneath him.
You heard. I think Ricky's glad that he's not in the car with that imbalance on side to side with the tires. But you also heard him say power steering seems to be a common story today.
Yeah, you certainly heard it from Ricky. We've talked about it with Lars Negre. We spoke to another couple of prototype teams after practice here early in the weekend who said we just had to change the setup. It wasn't going to live. So that's what we talk about. This track is total commitment. It's so demanding. There's so much downforce now in these latest iterations of the prototype cars, Justin. It just puts a lot more load through every part of the system.
Yeah, just so. Just a little sharp intake of breath there for Jordan as he actually had to jolt between not only a PC car but another prototype. Such high-speed action out there. Do think to myself, you know, the only person in the world that can call me out is my sister. Can you imagine driving with your brother? I mean, there are no holds bar in your debrief, I'm sure about that.
Yeah, they are quite a pair. The Taylor brothers picking up the action in GTLM.
Well, this is heating up here, Bob. We're looking at Antonio Garcia in the number 3. He's laid down the fastest lap of this race. So Jan Magnussen said, yeah, we missed it a little bit in qualifying, but right now they're tied for the championship coming in here. Going to lose some ground unless they can do something spectacular here in the last few minutes of this race. But Garcia on 1:15.3 as he tries to chase down John Edwards and claim that final spot on the podium today.
3 team of Garcia and Magnussen started the season with 2 big victories at Daytona and Sebring. Since then, it's a little bit tougher. They haven't come up with another win. Bill Auberlen had the best line. BMW won at Long Beach, won at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. They kept winning. He said, I'm surprised we're tied with those guys. You'd think we'd have left them in our rearview mirror by now. But with the increments in points between the various finishing positions so small, as you pointed out before, Calvin, it is really hard to lose your rivals or gain ground on them, especially as the races run down.
Dan Binks, the crew chief on that number 3 car, was telling me this morning that if they did every single thing right during the course of this race, that the best that they would finish is 3rd. So as they're fighting for that final step on the podium, that's exactly what he was expecting to happen. He said the competition is so tight right now and we just don't have it to run 1st or 2nd. But he said we're hoping for 3rd, but he does not believe in luck. So they believe in hard work.
Well, I think that hard work has paid off. So we talked about the car has really come to them. The conditions have changed. It's a little brighter than it was at the start of the race. And I think Garcia's really got a nice, comfortable feeling, which you need around here. It's all about commitment, but you can only commit if the car's doing the right thing. And looking at his lap times, that Corvette has found a sweet spot because he is the fastest car in the GTLM category.
Yeah, I reckon you're right. It is temperature related and setup related, obviously, but they've somehow ended up in that sweet spot. We're on board right now. Tommy Milner, who is obviously got no one in front of him for a little bit. He's just got to keep his head down and work his way forward. But we just see the way those prototypes go by. When I tell you, the GTLM cars are on the limit, and then you see the leading prototype guys go by, gives you a real indication of the difference in top speeds, the fastest parts of this track. Pierre Caffer's actually having to manhandle the Ferrari through that. He's just pushing hard, Bob. I think that's all it is. And the newly paved bit of asphalt there, I think, is unsettling them.
Yep, down in the moss corners. Caffer's on his way. Another break coming up on a beautiful day here in Ontario. More to come from the Mobil 1 SportsCar Grand Prix, round 7 of the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship here on Fox Sports. We're in Canada, but recently our Justin Bell was in Colorado, where he took part in one of the world's greatest and oldest motorsports classics, the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb, in one bodacious Lexus. Tell us about it, JB.
Yeah, you actually should add the word terrifying, too, as an experience. You can just see here what this is, Pikes Peak. I was so excited when Lexus invited me to drive this car. It's actually called the GT Concept, and it's come straight out of Japan, really much a time attack RCF. We actually finished 5th overall in our class. There was a little, I had snow at the top when I finished my run, so we thought we'd finish 3rd. There was a little modification results, but look at that drop off. I mean, that goes down a couple of thousand feet.
I always knew you were a lunatic. This just confirms it. I mean,
no, this is actually one of my warm-up runs, and you only see the real hill once, and that was on race day. It was amazing. There's Reese Millen, who's my co-host on Shut Up and Drive, and
I heard you had to have extra baggage for all your underwear you needed.
Oh, I did. I tell you what. So please, you should watch that Shut Up and Drive when that comes up, because that really is almost a documentary of my first ever Pikes Peak. But right after this race, of course, we have another Shut Up and Drive coming up.
So go back?
Yep.
You know what? I will go back, because your rookie year, you are in terror the whole time. And now I've had time to digest it, I'm ready to go back.
I'm terrified watching you, for crying out loud. That's awesome stuff. Dane Cameron remains on the race lead, now with an 18-second lead over João Barbosa in the Mustang sampling number 5 from Action Express. 28 seconds and change over 3rd place Oz Negri in the Ligier.
It's going to be really tight for Dane. It's about 25 seconds you lose down pit lane, and right now he's 18 seconds ahead of Barbosa, so he'll be by. Negri's 28, so that's going to be tight. Jordan Taylor 30 seconds behind. Westbrook is 37 seconds behind, so I think even with a splash of fuel, Dane should come out around the 4th spot.
And here's the news in the Prototype Challenge class. It looks like there will not be a 3rd straight win for the Star Works, Orica Chevrolet, and Renger van der Zande. A lot of folks shrugging, standing around that car. Let's go to Brian.
Oz Negri still holding on to P3 in the prototype category is co-driver John Pugh standing here. John, first of all, I got to say, so impressed with what you've done with this car this weekend. You were awesome in qualifying, awesome first stint. But what is Oz Negri dealing with right now? Can he hold on for the next 20 minutes or so?
I think so. Oz is in pretty good shape, but this track is really hard physically. It's hot in the car, and the power steering's locking up a little bit under load. It's getting so much grip in the car right now, coming down the hills, it's just locking up. And he's got to turn the power steering down, the assistance, and he has to muscle it. So it's a lot of work, but if anybody can do it, Oz can do it.
Anything else that he can change as far as a line goes into a corner to help alleviate some of that load, or if you're going to maintain the pace, you're just going to have it?
He's got to maintain the pace. He's right there. He's catching a leader a little bit at times. No, Oz, he doesn't want to let up at all.
Didn't want to let up at all. In fact, Mike Shank makes sure that there are a couple of medics down here just in case they need a little bit of help getting him out of the car. At the end of this race, he's giving it everything he's got.
It's getting really tight because Jordan Taylor's putting the pressure on him, and it's not just the load through the corner in terms of steering it where it wants to go. When you have to try and catch it, it'd be interesting to know if the power steering is recovering enough for him to be able to get control of the car if he gets a little twitch.
But actually, it's interesting, you know, the drivers now are way fitter than they were in, say, my dad's generation, but they're not bigger.
No.
The drivers were bigger and stronger in the old days, and I'm not saying then they had no power steering then and the cars didn't have the loading, but oh look, the 17 is in the pits. Brian, what are you seeing?
There's a little bit of trim coming out from the left front wheel well, but that's not where the crews are looking. They're looking in the back, and there's actually damage and some marks on the rear bumper of the 17 Porsche, and the exhaust is a little bit bent in, so I don't know if Brian Sellers spun and made contact with a wall or someone hit him from behind, but definitely damage to the rear of this Porsche. Anything else I don't really see, but obviously the crew not in a hurry to get anything done. It looks like they're doing some type of a data download. They've got the cables plugged into it and see if they can identify the problem, but right now the 17 sitting quiet on pit lane. That is just a shame after such a great weekend, especially last time out with the victory at the Glen. Remember, to this point in time, this is the only Porsche that's won in 2015 at GTLM.
We saw Wolf Hensler looking on. Bad news for them. And number 38 prototype challenge car. Looks like they're getting some kind of wing adjustment or perhaps replacement. Connor Daly now in the car. Connor was absolutely electric at the start of the Salem 6 Hours at Watkins Glen a couple of weeks ago, picking up all sorts of positions in the opening laps.
I think he's going to see more action with this team this year, so it's exciting to have him in our championship. Here we see Dane Cameron again, shy on fuel. That stop to replace that left rear tire just got them outside of their fuel window to get to the finish, so we do believe that he's going to have to hit pit lane, take a splash, and they may indeed change. There's been some radio chatter about maybe just from a safety standpoint, changing that left rear tire once again. If he does hit pit lane, for sure his teammate in the number 5, Joao Barbosa, in the Mustang sampling car would clear him. The question will be where Negri, Jordan Taylor, and Richard Westbrook are in relation to Dane Cameron. It's going to be very tight for those final podium spots.
And where they're going to catch traffic, when is the moment to do that? But I got to say, I was about to say, Dane is only running 3 or 4 tenths off his best lap of the race, or the car's best lap, and Joao is actually only, just that last lap was only just over a tenth slower than the fastest lap of the race. So they're running at a heck of a pace right now.
Before we get into the dramatic closing minutes, we want to remind you to visit safeisfast.com, a nonprofit website hosted by the Road Racing Drivers Club. It's a wealth of video tutorials about racing, especially if you want to become a racer. Next stop of the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship tour of great racetracks in the Northeast. How about Lime Rock Park in the Berkshire Hills of northwestern Connecticut? Always a great race. The Bull Ring. Calvin calls it Sunday, July 26th, 5 p.m. Eastern on Fox Sports 1. Back to the action. Now less than 15 minutes remaining. There's the number 60 of Oz Negri, who was in the fight of his life trying to muscle that car around with failing power steering. There's the number 54 in the hands of Colin Brown, leading the prototype challenge division.
Yeah, they've had a very strong showing all weekend, Bob, and it wasn't just John Bennett, it was Colin Brown who really wanted to push very hard. Talking about John Bennett, how is he doing down there, Jamie?
Well, he's just getting his radio off. He's been listening in as Colin's going around the closing stages of this race. John, it's been a long time since you guys won an event. How important is it to you to get a good result here today?
Well, I mean, it really doesn't seem that long ago, but it actually has been. We're really hungry for the win today, and I hate to talk about it so close to the end of the race. It's certainly not over, but it's been a good event for us for sure.
How has the competition changed in the prototype challenge category this year?
It's interesting. I mean, every season and almost every race it gets stronger and stronger. It's you know, the competition actually makes winning, you know, more valuable. So I really welcome the competition, and it's getting better and better. So I mean, we're enjoying it.
Closing stages, and I walked by, guys. John had his fingers crossed, so it's not over yet. It doesn't hurt.
Well, they've also, Core Autosport also run the factory Porsche team in GTLM, so they've done it before, winning with both classes on the same day. A little ways to go, but certainly they're looking in great shape.
Yep, there's John's ride with Colin Brown. Now you're on board the very car Calvin was just talking about. This is Nick Tandy in the Porsche North American Factory 911 RSR.
With an 11-second lead right now over Biloban in the BMW. But we saw the number 17 sitting there dead in the water. What had happened, Brian?
Well, it might end up being 2 wins in a row for Porsche, but it won't be another one for the 17. Brian, were you guys able to identify what the problem was?
Yeah, I mean, we were able to look really quickly and realize that we have some knock in one of the cylinders, a significant amount of knock in one of the cylinders, but it's too hard to tell on pit lane what the exact problem is. You know, we had a banged up exhaust, I think maybe a BMW or someone got into us. Did that create back pressure, create some issues? I don't know. It's unfortunate. You know, we weren't where we wanted to be on track. I'm not saying we were going to win the race, but we were still fighting, and you hate to see it go out like this. We were good in the team in the team points and the driver points, and this is a big hit to us.
Big disappointment indeed. The 5 is in, Jamie.
That's right. They're in for another puncture on that left rear. Quick work of it, no fuel, just the tire.
This is going to be really close. Try to see where Westbrook is on the racetrack. And he's by him. He's down in turn 2. So that's championship implications right there. Oh, yeah. And I tell you what, Dane Cameron with the lead he's pulled on the rest of this field, even with a stop, he may still win this motor race. It's going to be very tight when he exits after his final stop for a splash of fuel.
Yeah, Calvin, that's a good call. He's 20 seconds behind. João Barbosa is 20 seconds behind.
There you see the points as they run, but this one could change a lot in the last 11.5 minutes.
That was before the start for Barbosa, of course, so that's going to change up a little bit here.
This is Richard Westbrook, who certainly has been apprised of the situation, and he is hammered down.
Wow, this is going to be a nail-biter. A real nail-biter. Dane Cameron had about a 30-plus second lead over Jordan Taylor last time across the stripes, so I have to wait to see how far they push it. 11 minutes on the board. I think they're about 7-8 minutes shy, so I think in the next couple of 3 laps they're going to be hitting pit lane for this 31 car.
You've got, Dane. Flat out, absolutely flat out, please, mate. Come on, big push.
And the reason is he needs to build a big enough margin so they can hit pit lane. You lose about 25 seconds to cars staying out on racetrack, plus the service. They'll need a splash of fuel.
Fuel reserve, complete the lap, complete the lap.
Fuel reserve. Here's a roll of the dice. Make another lap.
The traffic in front of him is already exiting turn 1. So he does have a nice stretch here.
Checking the gap.
That was live radio. Sometimes our radio communication is a little bit delayed. That is live radio. So I don't understand why they would roll the dice here. I mean, I would have got him in there and got the job done. He doesn't need a bobble. He can't afford to lose 3 or 4 seconds here by running short on fuel. So that's a risky call.
Here comes Jordan Taylor. We'll see what the gap is when he crosses the timing stripe.
33.5 seconds.
Yep.
So the team should have about 8 seconds to play with in terms of the service, so it needs to be perfect. They'll need less than that on fuel. The question is, do they go to that left rear and change? What are you hearing, Jamie?
Well, Calvin, I think it might have been a little bit of a miscalculation. I just checked with the team about 4 minutes ago, and they said that they had about 12 laps left in the tank before they needed to make this fuel stop, and then they hit the reserve. So I think it's caught him by surprise just a little bit, but Dane should be in this lap.
Well, maybe they weren't ready, but they've been asking him to push hard, and you burn fuel. He locks him up there as he tries to hit pit lane. Got to be careful. He's still got to finish this race as Jordan Taylor is down in Moss corner.
Wow, this is fantastic. Look, he's jammed up behind the Corvette there, getting a nice run out, but let's follow the 31 down the pit lane.
Credit Dane Cameron. He was able to pick up a second on Jordan Taylor on that lap with the team urging him on. And it may be the difference. Jamie.
And Dane is in. It will not be a fuel-only stop. They're going to go ahead and change that left rear tire as well. So see the fueler shaking his head. He wasn't happy with the way it plugged into the car there. So a bit of a delay there. Tap on the shoulder.
That was way too much fuel, I think. That was way too much fuel. It's going to be tight. I don't think they needed that much as Jordan Taylor now hits turn 1.
I'm not sure they got that much in. You heard Jamie say the fueler was shaking his head. He may not have made the contact with the probe to get
Well,
get
maybe
the
it's
fuel
on the
flowing.
start. In terms of how long they were delayed waiting for fuel, it was more than enough, but maybe he didn't have it connected initially.
Right.
Wow.
That just lost them the motor race. I mean, that's as simple as that. That was just,
Wow, well, Dane's been quick. He's been quicker than the 10. He's got a fresh left rear. He's got to get that up to temperature.
There's the gap.
8 minutes on the board.
You said it, Calvin. They had to be perfect, and they weren't.
Here we go, though. He's going to dig deep here and try and get around that 10 car. He's going to have a little bit more grip out of that left rear corner, which is so important around this racetrack.
but Jordan can also lay the hammer down. He's got everything to play for right now. He's just going to go as fast. I mean, Dane's got to catch up, and as you said, he has had the ability to be the fastest car out on track, but
whoa, this is the best. Two great young drivers in very evenly matched cars. As the battle goes on, we'll have a look at that pit stop and keep your eye on the fueler.
Oh, you got it right, Bob. He couldn't get it in. That was the problem. He was shaking his head because it wouldn't go in.
That
what
was
a
the
critical
3 seconds.
point of this motor race. And then he's got to wait. He's got to wait to make sure he gets enough fuel in to get Dane to the finish. I was thinking they're connected way too long, being too conservative, but they never got it connected soon enough. Huge break for the Konica Minolta team. And they need everything. Remember, they dug a big hole in this championship with the driver log error at Daytona, then the crash for Ricky Taylor in the closing moments of the race, or the closing hour of the race at the 6 hours of the Glen. Remember in 2013, his brother Jordan Taylor and Max Angelelli went on a tear, winning 3 straight to close out the year and winning the championship. I think they've got to go 4 straight, and this would be the beginning here today.
Coming up on 6 minutes, 40 seconds remaining. Four laps maybe 5. Wade Taylor and brother Ricky look on.
They only have 1 car ahead of them. They have 2 cars already going through turn 1, way up in the distance, so the traffic is going to be in their favor for the next lap.
2.1 seconds last time across the stripe. This time by 1.6. Dane Cameron, half a second quicker than Jordan Taylor.
11.8, 11.4 in terms of lap time, 0.4 quicker. Just wow.
This is so much fun to watch.
1 bobble, 1 slower piece of traffic that doesn't cooperate.
Then you got to pass him too.
And you got to pass
It's
him
all
too.
about catching him's one thing. Jordan Taylor's was seen. He doesn't succumb to pressure easily, so.
It's much closer going through turn 7 just then, turn 5 rather just then. That's
how will traffic play a part, Justin? Will it work for Cameron? Will it work for Taylor?
Well, I'm looking on the monitor way up into the distance, and they have a pretty clear track up ahead.
This is awesome stuff. One of the best racetracks that we go to. There are no weak spots on our calendar anymore, but I really feel this is one of the best. We go from here to Road America, another super challenging racetrack.
In a very different way.
Call the difference there, Cal. What's it going to be this lap?
Went from 2.1 to 1.6. This time across the stripe, it is 1.6, so no delta there. Exactly the same. So Jordan Taylor has responded there on that last lap.
Lap time, 1:11.127, 1:11.068 for Dane.
Meanwhile, Nick Tandy continues to lead in the 911 in GTLM. Colin Brown comfortably on the lead in Prototype Challenge. But the battle on the track right now is at the front of the field. As you see Colin Brown. This team looking for their first victory of the season after winning both the driver and team championships last year.
Sean Rahal has jumped up to the 2nd spot in PC. What a drive there for the number 16 car. John Falben, Sean Rahal up to 2nd spot. Sean has got around Mac McMurray as they fill out the podium.
So much still to be decided this year. The championships are so close.
Traffic in a critical area there. Critical.
Oh, he's sliding his way down through.
He's going for it. Total
turn 10.
commitment there, but he washes wide. He's not going to have a good exit here. This will hurt his speed down towards turn 1, but he had to take it. Couldn't afford to wait.
No, he managed to hold the gap the same, just under 1.6. But right now, Jordan has managed to find that equilibrium in terms of Dane was catching him. He held it, and now he's able to keep the pressure equal on the distance, because that is, wow.
Look at Cameron, he uses all of the road in turn 2 and up over the curbing there a little bit.
A slower PC car ahead of them. This is a corners you don't want to get caught out in behind someone.
Oh, lock up by Taylor. Lock up, he runs wide. That will have cost him 2 or 3 tenths right there, and Cameron will have seen it.
He'll have tasted blood just then like a shark in the water, because that's all you need.
Keep working it, Dane. Keep working it. You're gaining. You're gaining. 3 minutes, 14 seconds remaining. We're coming up to traffic. You're doing fantastic. Keep it up.
I think it's going to be this lap plus 3 more. I don't think they're going to see the checkered flag after 2.5 more laps, so this is critical, getting that extra lap for Dane Cameron to try and catch him. I think the real key is going to be traffic here on these final few laps.
Saw the concern on the faces of Wayne Taylor and Ricky Taylor. Here's a look at the lockup. Down into turn 5A, 5B.
Just torturing these tires, trying to wring their neck and get a little bit more out of them, and they're just giving up in the final stages here as you tend to overdrive the car. Oh, traffic right there. That's critical for Jordan Taylor.
Oh, the 85 prototype
Here comes
challenge.
Cameron.
Get out the way. Go down the inside, mate. Oh, yeah.
Well, it was late. It was a late move. I think Cameron should be able to get a run through here. He's going to clear him before turn 4, I think.
I reckon he's going to come out of turn 5 right on his gearbox.
Focus, keep pushing.
I don't think that's a memo that Dane needs right now. I think he's got the message. He's on it. This is it. This is the coming out of turn 5. Oh, he was a little wide on apex there, Dane was. He's pushing himself too hard through there.
Yeah, no lockup, but just ran a little bit wide. He's just got to keep it clean, try and work on the exit.
You can do it.
The truth is they have no traffic for quite a way up ahead, and that is not what Dane wanted to see. They're coming through into turn 8, 9, 10.
Eric Kern sitting on the pit wall of the 31 crew.
Could be 2 more laps, I think, looking at the clock. Minute 40, they're not going to get it this time, so it's 2 more laps that Dane Cameron has to try and chase him down.
There's the word, 2 to go.
Traffic, as you said, Justin, looks pretty clear here for the next few minutes.
Yeah, it's...
Starter, white flag, next time by.
There is the traffic right up in the distance. You can see going through turn 3 right now.
That was the 10 squad talking to Jordan saying, white flag next time by, that's what you want to hear, but he's got red in his mirrors right now. The Whelan's
got red on the inside of his visor, too.
That should be all you have to deal with here to the end.
Right now you're doing the mental calculation yourself. You're looking up ahead saying, am I going to catch those guys in the worst spot, which for me would be 8, 9, 10 sequence. And he may just do that right now.
That Porsche, Cameron had declared the other factory Porsche just a few laps ago. Extra pit stop on the day for the 31 squad, yet they're still in with a shout of victory here today. 4 pit stops to 3 for the 10 car.
Okay, wow. Jordan has caught him. I mean, the Porsche are obviously very quick through this sequence of corners, but Dane is certainly pushing the advantage. They come out of 10 there.
Oh, be tight for Dane,
back off.
Yeah, but Dane's going to be tight to clear him into 1. It's going to be really tight here for Dane to clear him. I don't think he will. He's going to get balked here.
Yep.
Well, he was balked, but he didn't care. I think that was called using the inside curb.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Keep pushing, keep pushing.
Kept 2 wheels on the line.
It's his only thing. Look how he's great under brakes right now, Cameron. Really good.
Want to see him down into Moss corner, that tight right-hander getting on the back straight away. He's been a little bit off apex through there. I'm not sure if he just found a little bit better bite by running that wider line or not, but
Jordan making sure not to lock up that time. That would have been a catastrophic thing for him. Oh, Dane again wide going through turn. I
wonder if he's lost low gear or something because he just can't seem to tuck it in.
This is the last lap, buddy.
No, that's a... What a fantastic way to finish this race.
Wow, this is a great run, but that will be disappointment because they really could have won this race here today. They had... Oh, look at this! Taylor struggling to clear traffic in the final 2 turns.
1 more corner to go for Jordan Taylor. Dane Cameron is right there, but I think he's going to run out of race. And the Taylor brothers will win.
Nice job, nice job. Beautiful, way to go, dude.
1-2 for Chevrolet, their Corvette Daytona prototypes. Unofficially, Osnegri brings the Ligier JSP2 Honda home in 3rd, and then points leader Richard Westbrook in 4th.
Nick Tandy crosses the line and takes the victory in GTLM.
That's my boy there, good job, good job.
Fantastic, he controlled that as we watch Colin Braun come round in the number 54. Great race, Calvin, for them.
Absolutely, picking up their first victory of the year. Colin Braun brings it home for John Bennett to win Prototype Challenge.
What a day for Konica Minolta. They have about 100 guests here, and they see the team claim their second victory of the championship season. Jordan Taylor pumping his fist.
Time for our Audi move of the race. And here it comes.
We didn't see this viewpoint. This is where you had to put it all down, and wow. Talk about thread the needle there.
Great move, just not quite enough to catch Jordan Taylor. He and brother Ricky pick up their 4th Tudor class victories. Colin Braun and John Bennett, their 5th, the first 4 coming last year. And Patrick Pilet and Nick Candy, their 2nd and 1st here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Welcome back to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Next drop will be Lime Rock Park, Sunday, July 26, 5 p.m. Eastern on Fox Sports 1 for the GT Daytona and Prototype Challenge classes only. Moments ago, Oz Negri, who finished 3rd in this race with John Pugh. You see John with helmet on, ready to get into that car at any time. Oz Negri had to be lifted out of the car after radioing in that he needed help. He said, "It's really, really bad." We'll try to update his condition going forward. First, here are our BMW unofficial race results.
Well, what a race it was. The Taylor brothers get the victory, but for Cameron and Eric Curran, boy, that refueling little snafu, I think, cost them the chance of victory here today. It was half a second at the stripe, Justin, and I think he would have got it if they'd have got the fueling done efficiently.
Yeah, I mean, but you got to hand it to Jordan. He pushed home the advantage, and it's a well-deserved victory. I mean, amazing.
Well, let's hear from our winners. Brian Till is in victory lane.
Climbing out of the car right now, Jordan Taylor. The confetti cannon's going off. Wow. I mean, it was brutal out there. I talked to Ricky about his stint out there, and he was talking about power steering issues and that maybe you didn't have that problem. But my biggest concern was at the end when they decided to only go with left side tires and what that was going to do to the balance of this number 10.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it right before the race, what we would do if we had a short fill, and we decided 2 tires was better than 3. So when we did it, I mean, I went out of the pits and the car had a funny balance because we obviously had only 2 rear fresh tires. So once the balance came in, the car was quick, and I was setting faster times on the used tires than I was on the new tires. So great day for Continental Tires, great day for Konica Minolta and Corvette.
Great day for this team and these brothers. It's win number 2 on the season, makes up for some of the hard times they've had, Jamie.
And a great win for Nick Tandy and Porsche as well. Nick, giving a big high five to Babindam, the Michelin man here. How special is this victory for you today?
It's amazing. I think it's been, 18 months since we've actually been on the top step in victory lane, and it's been 18 months since I've personally been on the podium in this series. So it's been a long time waiting. We had a good run at Watkins Glen last week, but our mates in the Falcon car beat us to it. But yeah, this time it was a perfect weekend. Good qualifying, good practice sessions, and a fantastic race.
I imagine there's going to be a great celebration tonight, guys. Congratulations.
Well, I guess you can't win every race, but those guys are doing a pretty good job. Here's where we stand in the Prototype Class Championship with 3 races remaining.
It is tight. Look at that. 4 teams now separated by a mere 15 points, and a lot of them have momentum. It's going to go down to the wire.
In GT Le Mans, once again, Jan Magnussen and Antonio Garcia are up top by just 2 points, breaking the tie with Dirk Werner and Bill Auberlen.
Yeah, problem there for Auberlen. He drops to the 4th spot in the race there in the late going. We didn't catch that.
And in Prototype Challenge, Colin Braun and John Bennett up top after a tough race for Michael Gouache and Tom Kimber-Smith. To Brian.
And John Bennett standing here with Colin Braun. John, you looked relieved, and Colin, you looked taller than you did before. I think the monkey's off your back. This win, though, in the championship hunt, it was so close. 1 point when you came in here. How big is this for you guys?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, I think the biggest change was John. I mean, he did such a good job driving that Corrado Sport car, and you know, he made just a huge jump. I mean, he brought the car to me in the lead, and we were able to hold on and win the darn race. You know, these Continental Tires did a great job for us, and we had really good grip and were able to put a whole lap on the field. So just a big testament to the team and, staying true to our process and winning these races.
I think that's the key, John. We talked earlier in the year, and I talked to the team. They said we just have to keep doing what we're doing. The wins are going to come. How difficult is that to be that patient?
Yeah, I mean, that's all you can say, but winning is it's the difference. And, my hat's off to Colin and all the guys, Tom Brown engineering the car. Good weekend for us. And, to have our sister car, the 911, parked next to us on the top of the podium, I'm so happy for Porsche. So, great weekend.
Congratulations, guys. Jamie?
Dane Cameron, it came down to just a tenth of a second there. How hard were you pushing?
Yeah, that was definitely everything I had. The whole time it was just qualifying laps for almost 2.5 hours in the car. So it was pretty flat out, tough, really, really tough race. We were kind of on our own there a little bit, but unfortunately I think I was dropping wheels a little bit on the front straightaway, so we were having some soft leaks go down. So we were always having to pit early, and that made us have to do that one last pit stop. But we had it timed perfectly, but some days it's not your day, it doesn't go to plan.
Thank you, Dane.
Boy, oh boy, but what a race to the finish. Once again, our next stop will be GT Daytona and Prototype Challenge at beautiful Lime Rock Park. Coming up next, Shut Up and Drive San Diego. Final thought, Calvin?
Well, it was a fantastic race, and we go to Lime Rock Park for the GTD PC battle. That's a bull ring of a racetrack, then off to Road America, one of the best.
Yeah, I just think that the competition's so close. You can lose it, the team can lose it, the car can lose it. It's just amazing racing.
We want to thank you for joining us for the only stop of the TUDOR United SportsCar Championship in Canada. For Calvin Fish and Justin Bell, as well as Jamie Howe and Brian Till, I'm Bob Varsha. See you at Lime Rock. Until then, so long from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park in Bowmanville, Ontario.
Nice job, nice job. Beautiful, way to go, dude.